Hello, I am Tom, and this is Don, and today we're talking about racism in Warhammer 40k. Racism is rampant in Warhammer 40k. In fact, it's one of the universe's best traits, going hand in hand with its imperial sci-fi setting and grimdark atmosphere.
And as one of the universe's most consistent features, the racism blends perfectly with the over-the-top imperial sci-fi chaos.
But out of all of the factions in the 40k universe, which is the most racist? Let's get into it. Up first is the Tau, or the space communists of Warhammer 40k. The Tau's whole deal is they try and form like a collective, like a coalition of alien races, but with the Tau at the top. So they're almost using the other races as like cannon fodder, which is pretty racist. But in comparison to everyone else on this list, the fact they even work with other aliens, even if it's just as like chattel, is probably the least racist.
Yeah, but then you think about like the orcs or...
Are they more or less racist than the orcs?
Probably a little more racist than the orcs.
That's controversial. Look, I feel like we're gonna do a little bit of like a rearrange, a little shuffle.
All right, let's start at the bottom.
Yeah, let's start them at D.
Mm-hmm.
D tier.
See if things move around.
Yeah, because they work with other races. That's got to count for something.
Everyone was expecting that.
As long as you're, like, doing their bidding, they're cool with you. I am now realizing that if they're doing your bidding, they're cool with you, is kind of giving, like, American South vibes during slavery, which is pretty racist. And maybe they weren't really that cool with you, but that's still probably a lot less racist than everyone else. For now, D. All right, who's next? Let's do fucking orcs. Why don't you explain orcs to people?
Orcs are basically murderous space fungus, but I think it also makes them one of the least racist 40k factions because they actually have the capacity to like other races. Like, I think orcs really like space marines because they're hard to kill and fun to fight.
Yeah, they're tough. And they do like assign you a grade and value based on how orky you are. So do they measure by their own like criteria? Yes. But again, compared to everyone else, that's pretty progressive.
And I mean, it's also meritocracy. Like, it's based on the content of your character and your ability to fight. Like, they really like a human called Commissar Yarrick. They really respect him and think of him as like an orc, you know?
Orcs are big Martin Luther King fans.
Yeah, it transcends skin color, for sure.
Which is ironic, because they are obsessed with their skin color.
I think the orcs are the least racist, I would say.
Less racist than Tau?
I think so, for sure. I'm looking at it this way. I think that orcs, they have the capacity to respect and kind of like anything, whereas Tau are always going to be turning their non-existent noses up at stuff.
Oh, yeah, but like, I don't know, I do that to French people. It doesn't make me racist.
What do you think, leave them a D for now?
Fine, there's gonna be a reshuffle. There better be a reshuffle. All right, Sisters of Battle. We're now getting into the Imperium of Man. So to start with, the Imperium of Man is like founded on racism. It's like man above all. I feel like no matter how racist a man is, if you find a female version of it, they are gonna be like thrice as racist. You know what I'm saying?
They don't have the masculine stoic restraint of a man.
That's right.
They just
Yes.
They just go full hysterical. Full hysterical.
That's it, don't get him.
What are you saying? S tier? S tier
I
racist?
think they're S tier racists. For sure.
Especially because obviously the imperial racism is all bound up in kind of the dogmatism of the cult of the emperor.
Yeah, it's a religious
and they're like 100% cult of emperor, whereas space marines fuck around with LARPing as Vikings and stuff and have kind of other ancillary interests.
Which brings us to the Space Marines. The God Emperor's chosen sons, and the coolest of all the factions in Warhammer. How racist are they? Extremely. But I'm actually gonna say, despite the fact they're like humanity best, like kill the alien, suffer not the alien to live, all that shit, there is a spectrum within Space Marines. So Black Templars, S tier. Salamanders, like not as racist, which means because there's a gradient, I'm gonna say they're not S tier.
Yeah, Space Marines have to be A tier. What are you doing, Space Marines?
That's fucked up, dude.
It is fucked up.
Someone should make a series where like that's not the case. That's gonna be controversial, you know. People are gonna be so mad about this one. What the fuck do you mean? Tyrannid. Okay, this one's tricky, right? Are they technically racist? So Tyrannids are a swarm. They're a hive mind of aliens whose only desire is to like consume biomass. So they send their shit across the stars, then the fleet of aliens sniffs it out and they fucking eat everything. So is that racist? Like, equal opportunity?
Yeah, equal opportunity murder.
Do they even have the sentience for racism?
Yeah, I don't... How do the Nord Queens work? Do they have any kind of higher intelligence, resentment for life?
Well,
or is it all just about consuming?
Yeah, that's okay. Here's a good question. Is racism just... You're not even hearing me out. I haven't even got to my destination.
All right.
It might be a very rational destination, or it might get cut. Does racism have to be just like the definition emotionally driven? Could you be like an automation that just like... Do you know what I mean?
The philosophical problem with this is like, you could say, well, it's not because it's emotional, it's because it's rational.
That's not the kind of rational, like...
they have to eat everything.
I'm saying automated. Okay, let's say you've got ants. These ants will eat anything that's not an ant. They're not thinking about it. They don't have an emotional attachment to eating stuff that's not ants, but they are still putting ants above all else. Do you see what I'm saying?
So this is just a question of consciousness, basically.
Yeah.
So the tornado that obliterates like a community of one race versus
Of just
another,
black people. Of just New Orleans.
is not a racist tornado. It's just unfortunate.
Exactly. It's not a but it did just target black people.
Yeah.
Now imagine the tornado like targets everything that's not tornado.
Yeah.
What if it puts this life of tornado above all? Is the tornado racist because it's like, but it doesn't think?
No, but the problem is Norn Queens do think they're conscious. You could say, okay, the Termagant isn't racist, but it doesn't matter because he's just a puppet of the Norn Queen. So what does the Norn? How does the Norn Queen feel about this? You have to think of the Norn Queen as a conscious thing that you can grant isn't eating or killing everything because it hates them, but because it.
Well,
is
that's okay. So does racism have to be racism if it's got the hatred element, or can it be racism just because it's putting something above something else, like my anti-example?
And I think a lot of people would say you can be racist just for putting one thing above the other. Like to think that you go above them for any reason as another sentient thing is racist. And hatred doesn't have to be a component. So yeah, in a way, Tyranids, they don't ever make friends with anybody. They just kill and eat everybody. And there is a sentient thinking Norn Queen commanding them to do that. So
that's pretty racist. Dude, that's pretty racist. But, curveball, gene stealer cults. So gene stealer cults from Tyranids are basically they send one of their little aliens called a gene stealer to a planet, and it takes a host or subverts, like it starts like a little cult through like genetically.
Ooh, and then they start breeding.
They start breeding.
So if you were really that racist, would you fuck what you hate so much? You know?
Would you?
But it's also extra steps to kill and eat them.
Well, it's like turning them into you. So what happens is the gene stealer comes, it like genetically infects someone, and they start like a cult around Tyranids, and they start breeding with the Tyranids, and they become more and more like Tyranid over generations. So the starting person might have like an extra limb or 3 eyes, but by the time you get to like the 4th generation, it's just fucking like purebred gene stealers. Is that racist?
Yeah, but it's ultimately the only one that's sentient in this. So those are sentient humans being taken for a ride by the Norn Queen, whose ultimate goal is just to eat everyone. So it's just kind of it's racism with extra steps, Tom.
Well, we do have a real world example we can fall back on to prosecute this properly. The Spanish. South America as a concept. How did it get the name Latin? You do the math.
And why do they speak Spanish?
Why do they speak Spanish? The Spanish went over there and they were like, dude, we could like make these people Spanish. Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like mega racist. You're like, we're gonna breed out the thing that we don't like and make it the thing we do like. Whereas the like English in North America was more like, oh, we're gonna like wipe them out and not breed with them because like, ooh, yucky. What's more racist? Like, what's more racist? Do you know what I'm saying? That's where gene stealer cults muddies the waters here.
Yeah, I think
the Tyranids do both. The Tyranids do both. That's pretty fucking S tier. Or would you say it's A tier because it's missing the hatred component?
Yeah, it can still be racist, but it's missing the sauce. You know what I mean?
Yes, missing that delicious sauce.
The Sisters of Battle, they have hatred and logic.
Right.
In their perspective, and Tyranids is just
clarify
logic.
the second half of that sentence.
They have to survive.
That's not what I meant. Dude, I mean like, it's life and death. Although in Warhammer it is, so fuck. Moving on. Demons.
Okay, hear me out. So demons in 40k are the manifestations of intense emotions by sentient beings in real space. So real people, real aliens feel really mad. Sexual desires, excessive violence, and that creates demons in the nether. alternate dimension called the warp. So what I'm driving at is, yeah, demons would be D because they're actually a multicultural society.
Well, also, like, they don't give a fuck what you are. They want to control you.
To possess you, not even necessarily to kill you.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're also like a soup. That's what I'm saying. They are the mixing pot.
They're the mixing pot.
The
of
cultural
Warhammer
mixing
40K.
pot of 40K, so they have to be D.
I like how your summary is like, the mixing pot creates hell.
And the warp is always depicted as all swirly.
That's fucking true, Don. Good point.
All right.
Mechanicus. Okay, this is a tough one. So this is another branch of the Imperium of Man. They are responsible for all of the robotics and machinery and stuff, to the point where they like worship it. They're like, this is fucking God to us. However, they're kind of tricky because like they're so racist they even don't like themselves. You know what I'm saying? They think the human form is kind of disgusting and they want to become robots, more or less.
Yeah, and this is where it gets... So that's one balance that makes them more racist, but then the other piece is they're also fascinated by other tech that they don't understand, so...
They appreciate the culture.
Yeah. Sisters of Battle, to a fault, would swear off anything alien, whereas the Necron would be interesting to the Mechanicus.
Right. Depending, there's like variation, right? Like there's some sects within the Mechanicus that would be like, no, like fuck that, but there's also plenty that'd be like, what's up? Like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, within the lore, I mean, if you're more casual and you just played Space Marine 2, I think there was even a part where one of the Space Marines is complaining about how the Mechanicum are kind of heretics because they're interested in Necron stuff.
That's true, but some people would argue like that's worse, you know, like culture vultures. You know, they don't even care about like who made it. They just want the thing.
They want the thing to eradicate the things that made it.
Yeah, like that's sick. That's disgusting. In fact, that makes me nauseous.
So is it more racist to culture vulture in order to destroy versus just closed-mindedly swear it off completely?
I think it's less racist to culture vulture.
Because both want to destroy, but one will actually touch.
Yeah. It's maybe more like fucked up in a way, but it's definitely still less racist.
I think you got to go B.
You're not going to say a super duper liberal who does that where they like, I don't know, fucking take it for their own and whatever is more racist than like a hardcore like white supremacist or whatever. You wouldn't, there's just no way. B, you think?
Just the fact that they would like revere like Necron tech and be fascinated by other alien tech, you know, and like want to study it and take it apart and be like kind of amazed by it.
They were like really into Drake versus Kendrick or whatever. That's basically what you're saying. It's like that vibe. All right, let's move on to Eldar. Eldar are basically space elves. They are highly supremacist within themselves, but you know, okay, well, this is kind of like the previous one. The Eldar are totally okay, like trying to machinate outcomes that save their own people at the expense of trillions of others' lives, right? So they will like try and pull the strings and like use fucking weird magic shit or like fortune telling to essentially like put their species ahead because they're dying out slowly. They are the South Korea of Warhammer 40k. Low birth rates, and that's exactly where the comparison ends. That wasn't very thought through. But they will also, like, save other races if, in the long term, it benefits them.
Yeah, so just to clarify your thinking, what makes the Tau less racist than the Eldar?
Because the Eldar would never incorporate elements of other people's, like, units into their culture. They would never let them live on their worlds.
Except they do. Don't they have, like, humans work with them all the time?
They might, like, help humans occasionally, but they would never, like, integrate them into their society.
I'm not sure that's true.
It's true.
They wouldn't integrate them as equals next to the
No,
Eldar.
they don't integrate them at all.
Well, I'm just going off of, like, the original 40k novel series. I think it was Gav Thorpe. Might have to fact-check the lore there.
Don't click off. No.
Corgan, Google for us.
Some humans have been known to live on Craft World Eldar for extended periods.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about.
All right, whatever, dude. There's one white guy in Wakanda, and we're going to say that Wakanda's not racist. Okay.
I mean, everyone here is racist. It's levels.
When you say everyone here, are you talking about that or this?
So you saying B?
Yeah, they're
I think it would have to be B.
Yeah, B for the Eldar. Although, like, I would be tempted to say A. Eldar are fucking lame anyway, dude. Who cares? Okay, Imperial Guard. So Imperial Guard are the hammer of the Emperor, dude. Sick. They're just the mass humans. They're just kind of the 40k equivalent of our armed forces today. Super racist, but they would maybe sometimes like get sick of shit and join the Tau.
Yeah, I'm going B.
So I think B tier for them because they're just regular humans. Like,
Yeah, they don't have the indoctrination of like a space marine. You know? Like if you're a guardsman, there's a good chance you'd go off and fucking Eldar. You know,
I would.
you'd think about it.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that was easy. Chaos Space Marines. Okay, these guys are Space Marines, but they're in league with demons. I'm gonna say they're as racist as Space Marines, maybe even more.
Okay, but the interesting philosophical piece is, are they mistaken? Because we've said demons are basically the universe's mixing pot, and they hang out with them, and they let them possess them. You know?
Oh.
So as a chaos guy, you're like letting all the gross, filthy aliens.
Well, they're not aliens. They're like, oh, yeah. Do the aliens contribute to the like core ones that the Chaos Marines worship? Because there's four chaos, like core chaos gods: Nurgle, Slaanesh.
Well, Slaanesh is Eldar. If you're
Slaanesh is Eldar. Fuck.
So if you're a chaos guy and you're a Slaanesh chaos guy, then you're letting those Eldar sex pest stuff just rub you all
That's
up.
true. Just a lore dump for you guys. Like, Slaanesh was created because Eldar fucked so much and so fiercely that it made a whole chaos god that now wants to eat their souls.
So now you're mainlining Eldar cum into your body to have superpowers. You can't be that racist if you're willing to do that.
Dude, that's so true. All right, you convinced me. B tier.
Yeah, we'll go B, because they think they're racist, but they're not.
They really want to be racist,
so they're
but
stuck between S and D, so we'll average out on B.
What a tragic story the Chaos Marines are.
All right, who's next? So, Dark Eldar are like Dark Elves, but kind of evil and bad.
They're Eldar, but like BDSM.
And they like to take slaves and torture people and do lots of messed up stuff.
Oh, heck.
So, I think they probably have the base racist attitudes of Eldar.
You say based.
Base, like basic.
Gotcha.
Just the standard set.
Right.
What else do they have going on?
They would have a human in their, like, society.
Yes, and they would kidnap a human and torture rape him.
That's pretty racist.
But as we've discovered, less racist than not touching at all.
That's settled science.
This is touching.
We've discussed that, and that's settled science. So you're right. It is less racist than just not touching at all.
Yeah, raping a new race into existence in Latin America is less racist than just genociding them.
Is that what we've decided?
That's what. Yeah, I think so.
Fuck. It did give us Latinas. It's not all bad.
In a way, don't people kind of consider it a genocide even still? Because you've kind of eliminated and replaced the original thing?
People.
Hey, but to go back to the other thing, just murdering everything and refusing to touch it because it's icky, philosophically more racist than being willing to fuck something, even if you also want to kill it. So I think you'd have to say the Dark Eldar are less racist than Eldar, and if Eldar are B, then Dark Eldar are C.
Wow, you are making a lot of good points. You think about this
I
often.
think about this a lot.
C. Dark Eldar C. Based on the exploits of Spain. Alright, Leagues of Wotan, I don't know. This is like added after our time. Okay, so these guys, they're not the most fond of aliens or even humans. They're basically space dwarfs. That's all you need to know about them.
Should we talk about them as squats or what they are
You
today?
just said that to like flex on people. You were like, yeah, I know what they were called a long time ago.
This is actually after our time. This is like a newfangled, made-up Warhammer race that doesn't count, so I don't know a lot about them. But the squats were a class of abhumans.
No, these guys are like, this is a different thing now.
They're a completely different thing.
They're like, maybe aeons ago they were humans, but like, it's been so long they don't consider themselves humans. And the Imperium doesn't consider them humans. Look, I'm gonna say, these guys have no emotional attachment to stuff, and they would even like let aliens exist as long as the aliens aren't like interfering with them. So I'm gonna say they're probably like D tier.
It's all pretty lame. Sounds pretty fucking lame.
It is pretty fucking, like, Warhammer's supposed to be everyone fucking sucks.
And hates each other.
And hates each other. That's like what makes it cool. That's why it's not fucking loser shit like Star Wars.
And this is like a measured social justice race.
No, they're not. I mean, they're not like advocating for like aliens get along and shit. They're just like not that interested in exterminating them all for the sake of it. Which I agree, lame.
What if the aliens land on their space rocks?
Oh, then they'll fucking wipe them out.
So they don't share the mining resources?
No.
Okay.
no. They're like your regular MAGA. You know, they're not
MAGA
like
level.
Yeah, they're not like
Yeah.
they're not actually like racist.
Just distrustful.
Just distrustful, right?
Okay.
Whereas like almost everyone else is like fucking, you know, hailing and the rest of it.
Who's next?
Necrons, S tier. So Necrons are essentially the most ancient race in Warhammer, or like one of, and their whole deal is they're space mummies. They woke up. They're fucking grouchy. All of these other newfangled stupid races are like treading on their dirt and they want to kill them all and wipe them out. That's essentially it. They hate everyone who's not a Necron. They think they're inferior. They want them gone.
The universe belongs to them.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking S tier. Right?
Sweet. Yeah.
Dude, I don't think we need to reshuffle shit. This is a perfect list.
Who is the least racist of the racists?
Demons.
Yeah, it'd have to be. Who's next? I'd say orcs.
Orcs more than Tau is like, it's a tough one for me.
They don't have racial-based hatred.
They
you know?
do. Anything that's not an orc is automatically considered like fucking less than.
Unless it's orky enough.
Yeah, but you have to like.
Yeah, but
dude,
philosophically, that transcends race, and they're just not.
No. Okay. Let's go back in human history, and you have like a Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
Such a good boxer and entertainer that, like, yes, the white people of the time are like, like they're one of the good ones. But does that mean they're like not racist?
I see.
Like, yes, merit based, but you're starting from different starting points. So you have to do something truly exceptional to become like orky.
No honorary Aryans.
Yeah, it's like Italians or something, you know? Like,
what do you mean?
I'm still figuring that out myself. No, I'm just saying, like, yeah, you can become white, but you didn't start there. That's how orcs do stuff.
Yeah, makes lots of sense.
We're so fucking retarded. Whereas Tau, they'll be like, dude, as long as you're with us, you're fucking white. Like, that's the Italian equivalent there.
But are they, though? I think every alien is still always below the lowest Tau. It's like the same thing as orcs. They might just be willing to work with them more often, which I guess would still make them, what, less racist than orcs?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, what about Leagues of Votann?
I don't think they would ever work with aliens, so I'm going to say they're more racist than Tau. And probably, I'd say they're more racist than orcs. It's not like they can, you know, content of your character into like a, oh, you're Votanny. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they probably just have the fantasy dwarf skepticism of every other race, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a toss-up. You decide, Don.
Yeah, let's just say most racists of the D. They are still 40k humans, sort of, after all. So our final declaration on who's the least racist in Warhammer 40k is the demons. Agreed?
Yeah.
So now, final question, who is the most racist in 40k? We're between Sisters of Battle or Necron. Necron think there's no space in the universe for anyone but Necron.
Yeah.
Sisters of Battle think there's no space in the universe for anyone but humans.
Yeah, but I feel like a Sister of Battle's dogma, no matter how, like, stringent, could be undone.
It's not infallible.
It's not infallible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas a Necron's just a robot.
Yeah, I mean, the Necrons have sentience and stuff, but, like, I can't see anyone talking them out of it.
What about that guy that goes around and collects aliens, you know?
Yeah,
still
so
pretty
there's a guy
racist, but like a Sister of Battle would never do that.
No, but like he's still viewing them as like inferior like specimens that are interesting. You could foreseeably see a Sister of Battle like forsaking her human stuff and joining the Tau like in a very super mega rare scenario. It feels like it could happen. Like maybe a better comparison to a Necron would be like a Grey Knight. So a Grey Knight is like a Space Marine but even more fucking indoctrinated and shit, and they would never ever. Right? That's more of a Necron to me.
I don't know if there still are, but there used to be rules in the game where you could not team up with aliens, like ever, if you played as Grey Knights.
Yeah, on that basis, if I say Necrons and Grey Knights are kind of like similar to, that means the Necron's more racist than the Sister of Battle.
Well, there you have it. Most racist race in 40k, not the Space Marines, actually, but the Necrons.
That's crazy, dude.
And who got the silver medal? Sisters of Battle. Space Marines only got bronze. What do you know?
Yeah, so there. All right, I like it. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you've been thoroughly educated. Maybe next time we'll do which one's the most sexist or something. Who knows?
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That'd be a deeper conversation.
Yeah.
Kind of want to do that. Write that down. See you next Friday. Goodbye.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope everybody's having a good day. How's everybody doing? Good. Yeah, wonderful, fantastic. So, I'm kind of trying to organize this. I wanted to have somebody on with me. In fact, I think I'm going to have Mansour Ashkar, who is a Druze himself, who will most likely be joining me later. If he can't join right now, I will probably have him join later today or on the weekend or something. But he might be here in a little bit. Who is so Mansour Ashkar is a Druze himself. He has his own channel and all that. And but I want to briefly talk about the Druze here today because there's some really messed up stuff happening in Syria, and Israel started bombing certain locations in Syria in response to the Druze being attacked inside Syria by Islamists and by the Syrian government. Oh, Mansour is joining me just in a second here. Good, wonderful. So, how's everybody doing? Everybody's okay? Everybody's all right? Good. I want to cover some of the stuff that is happening in Syria today. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but so there is the Druze community, and I want to talk a little bit about who the Druze are, because lots of people don't know anything about them, understandably so, because I think there are only like 1 million or so of them around. And right now, the Islamists are trying to make sure that they also get rid of those millions, those million that are left there. The Druze are their own ethno-religious community, their own ethno-religious group in the Middle East. There are many of them in Libya, not Libya. There are many of them in Lebanon, and in Syria, and in Israel. And in Israel, they are living very, very freely and happily. In Syria, they have been living in some autonomous mountain area in the south. However, they have undergone repeated aggressions, repeated attacks, and right now, the certain Bedouin factions or certain Islamic factions inside Syria have started fighting with them and started massacring them with the help of the Syrian government. And I want to get some help to explain a little bit of that in about a minute when Mansour joins me here as well. I was going to talk a little bit about who the Druze are, but I might as well just get his opinion or his updates directly, because he's also in touch with Druze people in the field. D says the videos I saw are horrific. I know I saw quite a few videos. I didn't want to look at all of them, but some of the videos going around are really, really, really messed up. There are videos that they are simply shooting on their phones and then publishing, where they are torturing, executing, or simply humiliating Druze civilians. And they're doing that gleefully, joyfully, just for fun, as it seems, while saying that they will get rid of them, that they are pigs, and so on. And Mansour, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here, brother.
No problem. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining on such short notice.
Yeah.
We haven't talked before, you and I, but we have been in touch a little bit loosely.
Somehow I feel like we did talk, but I guess just because we interacted, but you're right, we've never really been in touch like this, face to face.
That's true. So Mansour Ashkar, for all those who don't know you are Druze, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. Can you introduce yourself to everyone who is here who
Of
doesn't know?
course. So I'm a Druze, born and raised in Israel, a former officer in the IDF, a member of the Special Forces, and I have my own YouTube and podcast channel as well that I started quite shortly after October 7, basically. trying to give a better picture about what's happening in Israel and the situation there from the perspective of military as well. And as a Middle Eastern that was born and raised in the area, I was a negotiator in the army. So I studied also the history of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism to understand how many cycles, and psychology, to understand how many cycles are in the Middle East. Right now, I have relatives in Syria, and I'm in touch with the fighters on the ground that are trying to defend their homes from these jihadists and from the government of Jawlani, basically, that is trying to come and for those who don't understand, maybe if you don't mind me just kind of throwing a bit brief about what's happening in Syria.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the government of Jawlani is a very radical Salafi, kind of religion. Now, that's the most extreme way of practicing Islam, you can call it, and they're trying to impose the most extreme Sharia law on all of Syria. And their goal is to make Syria basically, the way they see it, cleansed from anyone who's not Sunnah and from anyone who doesn't think like them. And the best place to start is with the Christians, the Alawites, the minorities, the Druze. The Druze were one of the only ones that did not really bend the knee and kind of stood and said, we're not going to allow this to happen. And then they decided to come and butcher and kill them all. They brought tanks, they brought drones, they brought artillery. So this is undoubtedly the government. It's not just, the Bedouin clans. The first round, when they were trying to massacre them, and we've seen these horrific videos, shaving the beards, killing people, kidnapping girls, same thing like we saw on October 7. It's the same kind of mentality, same backward, radical Muslim mentality. And they lost thanks to Israel. Israel went in and basically blew the hell out of them, and also went and launched a missile on the Syrian Pentagon and blew it to pieces. El-Shara, the ISIS, Al-Qaeda leader of Syria, he fled, I guess out of fear for his life. And now the Muslims there, they felt very humiliated that they were defeated by, the Druze and the Israelis. So now they're actually piling trucks and convoys from all over. I just had a voice recording from one of the Druze guys who's a photographer, but now he's fighting in the streets for several days. And he was asking me just a genuine question. He said, like, what kind of a crazy backward mentality? There's people that live 700 kilometers from me. I've never met them. I've never wronged any of them. And they want to kill me so badly that they're jumping on trucks and coming so they can kill us all and slaughter us. And that's the situation basically kind of in a nutshell.
So I want to ask you some questions here, but so first off, for those who have absolutely no idea of what is going on in Syria, after the Syrian civil war, after Assad was overthrown, Jolani and his Islamist goons took over. So they overthrew Assad, and some people naively thought, "Oh, this is good." So the civil war is going to end, and now it's a good government is going to be established. No, it is an Islamist government. Jolani, the head of it, was at some point part of Al Qaeda, about which he never expressed any regret, and he also collaborated with ISIS in the past. And he was part of an offshoot of Al Qaeda called HTS, which wanted to counter to Al Qaeda, make a more pragmatic national movement, but pretty much within the very same ideological and religious beliefs as Al Qaeda. The only reason that HTS and Al Qaeda kind of at a minor level clashed was that Al Qaeda had a more universal mission, whereas HTS said, "Okay, we need to focus right now on Syria." So he has taken over, and this Islamist government is in charge and is currently treated as a transitional government, but it is very much taking over and holding Syria currently in its grips. And while under this government, Jolani pretends to be very diplomatic and pretends to be all-inclusive for all the people in Syria, his actions, or under his watch, lots of terrorist attacks happened against minorities, against Christians. We had them. We have them now against the Druze. We have the massacre of the Alawites going on, and so on. that is a completely different discussion. It's a big can of worms to fight between the Sunni and the Alawites, but
Yeah.
also has to do with the fact that Assad himself is an Alawite. But the whole Druze situation is a little bit different. Now, Mansour, you said you were an officer in the IDF, right?
That's correct.
But that's kind of confusing because lots of people are saying that Israel is, or the IDF is like this Jewish supremacist thing, but you are telling me you're Druze, you're not Jewish, and you were an officer in the IDF.
Yeah,
How's
and
that
most of my soldiers were Jewish, and I gave them a lot of shit. But that's what
Wait.
officers do, That's what officers do. It's one of the biggest lies, and I think one of the reasons also that Islam in general, big faction, big portion of Islam hates the Druze, especially in Israel, because it's the best example that coexistence does exist in Israel, and that Israel is probably the best country in the Middle East for minorities and Arabs. And whoever come peacefully and say, hey, let's live together, let's coexist together. As we're like, a few months ago, there was a bunch of teenage girls, Druze, from the village of Yarka, that sent a satellite to space. Meanwhile, teenage minority girls in Syria are being kidnapped and becoming sex slaves, and in many, many Muslims in countries in the world. In Druze, we have judges, we have parliament members that are Druze. Women can walk freely, can work and job, can drive. It sounds crazy, but you will understand me. Women can drive cars. Some
Weird.
places that's really looked down on in some Muslim countries. So Israel gives equal opportunities, and the Druze and the Jews are actually the only groups in Israel that share all the responsibilities and obligations, all the rights and obligations. Other minorities, for example, don't have to serve in the army, but they have all the rights.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, the reason they have good life there is because they're protected by the IDF.
Now, some people say that, or some people think or have the assumption that Druze are just also another Muslim group, and we often see people say Arab Druze, and then they say Muslim Druze. Now, with Arab Druze, to my knowledge, there is no big problem because Druze and Arab is kind of ethnically intermingled, intertwined, or something. But Druze became its own culture after a while. But why do so let me get it from this angle. Over the last few days, I've seen many videos by Islamists, very horrific videos, by the way, but some just them standing around and shouting into a camera that they will go and kill these pigs, the Druze pigs, and these mustaches, and rip their mustaches off their faces and so on. Meanwhile, others here are acting like Druze are just another form of Muslim. But these Islamists describe the Druze as idol worshippers and so on. Lots of people obviously do not know what Druze are and what Druze believe. So how about can you explain the difference a little bit?
Yes, so the Druze is considered a secret religion. And I have my theory why is it secret. But in general, the Druze, to answer, jump from the end and come back to the start, the Druze are not Muslims.
Okay.
They're not Muslims. They have their own faith, their own religion. However, under Muslim countries, being a non-Muslim, unless you're Jew or a Christian, is sentenced to death. You're a kuffar. As you know very well, Islam, it's very easy to enter Islam. They're very welcome. Not many high standards at all. But it's impossible to leave. They want to kill you if you leave, and they want to kill basically anyone that is not Muslim. The only ones they don't want to kill, well, probably want to kill them, but I guess, somewhere along the line, because they had to use them as a way to prove themselves as a religion, they said that the people of the book and the Christians are in some ways had a purpose for God's plan, so we don't need to kill them, but they live in a very humiliating way. So the Druze undoubtedly need to be killed. Now, my theory why the Druze is a secret religion, and I'm sure many Druze will not agree with me because they try to think I'm not a religious person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think many of them look at it, kind of mystically or theologically. I think it's a very simple answer. Because they've been living under Islam and they're offshot of the Shia, they use the classic taqiyya to hide their identity to survive. Many people hear the word taqiyya and it's permission to lie in Islam, but usually it's used in order to promote the the agenda of Islam with jihad and etc., or to survive, literally to survive. So the Druze in many places, even till today, up until not long ago in Syria, were saying, yeah, we're Muslims, and then the Muslims were testing them. Yeah, you're Muslim, let me marry your daughter. Now the Druze don't allow to, they marry inside the Druze. No one can convert to Druze. It's not a missionary religion. And they kind of went and lived in their own mountains far away just to be left alone.
Mm-hmm.
And now, after, it's interesting actually, one of the reasons that all of this shit started happening is when Assad regime fell down, Israel allowed a delegation of religious Druze men to come to Israel and to go visit the holy place that they had. And they were welcomed very nicely in Israel by the Jews and by the Druze. And that really ignited a lot of hate from Syria. And I thought, you're traitors, you love the Jews. And then they've been looking for excuses. And now they're basically saying clearly, that the pig is outside of the box, and they're saying they're not Muslims and they should be all killed. So they called a all-on jihad. The Druze in Syria are experiencing right now an October 7 on an epic scale. The only difference is when Israel experienced an October 7, the same thing, was a genocidal attempt. The first line of jihadists were stopped by civilians and by special forces. Many of my friends from my unit were one of the first to reach there, if it's by helicopters or cars, fighting few against many. We're talking numbers of sometimes 4 to 7 people against 200. And they took down a lot of them, but many of them also died. And then the main army came and contained the situation. So the genocidal attempt of Gaza was stopped with 1,200 civilians casualties. In Syria, there's no IDF to protect the Druze. The problem is actually that the army, the IDF of Syria, is the one committing the October 7. So that makes it even worse. So if Israel would have not intervened, the massacres would have been maybe in the numbers of tens of thousands, if not even more. I mean, radical Islam. When do you think will they stop? If they run to a place and they
won't stop.
They won't stop. It's like a plague.
They will not stop until they can somehow maybe force the population to live like little slaves, like little animals that obey them and do whatever they say, and put up with their abuse. Maybe then they will have a little bit of a pause to their atrocities. Maybe if they can somehow.
In Aleppo, they had the chance to do that, and they tricked them to give down their weapons, and then they basically killed them because they said, even though you convert, you're Muslims. I think they will stop after they kill the military-age males, and will take the girls and as sex slaves and the young men as slaves, basically.
That's pretty much what it looks like. So here was when after the Assad regime fell. People from the leadership of the Druze leadership, many of them crossed the border into Israel to visit Israel for the first time and to have cordial interactions with Israeli leaders, with the Druze leaders in Israel, to visit their holy sites and so on, and then to go back again into Syria. This happened, and of course, a lot of anti-Druze or Islamist people in these territories. In Syria, then started asking the question, why in the world are they doing this? Are they on the side of the Jews, the evil Jews? And everybody knows. Everybody knows exactly what the Islamic message is about Jews and about being good with Jews and about collaborating with Jews. If you do it, you are evil and you are probably a traitor and you probably deserve to be killed. So the Jews were immediately perceived not only just after, this is just an excuse. This is just an excuse. But the Druze this was immediately used as propaganda that the Druze are collaborating with the evil Jews against the Muslims. And the very interesting thing about this is also, so the Druze started out as an offshoot of certain Shia sects in the 11th century, with its own theology and its own esoteric teachings. Back then, the Shia, while they had some power, were still on a on a local, private level, not very open with their religious beliefs. And the Druze came out in such an environment as even more offshoot and even more secretive, and made it a core doctrine actually since then to be completely secretive about their beliefs and about their ideas and all that. I believe the Druze call themselves muwahidun, right, or something like
Right.
that.
The believers in one God, kind of.
Yeah, believers in one God. So the idea is that the idea from the Druze perspective, to my understanding, is we are not Muslims. Muhammad was just one person who delivered something that he may or may not have properly understood, but Islam was just a stepping stone for different people. The actual deep and most true faith in the sight of the one true deity, one true God, is the Druze faith, and only a small group of people within the Druze actually have access to the religious text of the Druze, which are called the Epistles of Wisdom, and so they actually see themselves as the proper Unitarian, the proper believers in the one God, while Muslims are not seen as proper, as people who actually have a proper faith. They are rather seen as people that have a slightly misunderstood or corrupt faith, or something like that, to my understanding, right?
Pretty correct. I mean, I will add to that the Druze kind of believe that it's like 1,000 years old new age religion. They believe that God gave different religions, different groups of people, different prophets to come and point at the one God. You know, the Jews had Moses, the Christians had Jesus, the Muslims had Muhammad, and they also believe, you know, that the Hindus and other groups have different ways of interpreting faith, and it's all pointing to the same direction. And then God gave them the secret understanding of what is exactly happening to put it all together, but that all religions are right, basically. And for a while, the Islam, al-Hakim bi-Amrillah, which was, the ruler, the Khalifa in Egypt back then, which is a funny story about him. I don't know if people know that. He was a very controversial one. And one of the rules that he made, I mean, when I studied, that's, what my professors for Islam told me, that he made a rule that it's illegal to make sandals for women. And one of the reasons, the main reason, was because women should not leave the kitchen, and they don't need to have shoes. And he was like a bit of a crazy guy. And then at a certain point, he was walking naked and he just disappeared into the streets. And funny enough, the Iranians believe that this is like the how do you call it? The imam that is going to come back, the disappearing imam.
The Mahdi.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, at a certain point, the Druze were asked a question and said, wait. You mentioned something about reincarnation. The Muslims asked the Druze. And the Druze said, yeah, I mean, reincarnations happen. There's a lot. They took everything from the East, from the West. They kind of mixed all religions together and took what they like and built a new religion. So then the Muslims asked them, wait, so can a prophet come after Muhammad? And the Druze said, of course, if God wants, and he want to send the prophet, in a different time to come and teach the people, of course. And that was the moment that they said that they are kuffars.
Because you can't say you can't
Muhammad
say that
is
a
the
prophet came after
seal of the
Muhammad.
prophets, and he's the last prophet. And they started killing them. And then began the 1,000 years of surviving a genocidal attempt under the Islam. And that's why they fled from Egypt and they went to Syria, Lebanon, and Israel, and mostly were hiding in the mountains. Easy to protect these areas, and were farmers and fighters at the same time, and which explains what you're seeing right now in Syria, and that is, the blessing and the downfall of the Druze. They're very proud people, and they would rather fight till the end rather than bend the knee to Sharia. And we're seeing it right now happening. They have about 60 tribes in Syria that are coming at them with the government, with military drones and tanks and I don't know what. And the Druze there have been in a siege for over half a year. They barely have running water. The fighters that are fighting in the streets right now, they have a small canteen and they drink one sip and give it to their friends. The people that I'm talking, there's different companies running in the streets fighting, and they go on rescue missions to rescue orphans, kids that just saw their parents being slaughtered. And now they're running with kids with them, trying to protect these kids and running away from these jihadists. But what makes it very difficult for them is that it looks like Qatar or Turkey, someone has been providing military-graded drones to these jihadists. So they're dropping at them from the sky and killing them. And It's making it very, very hard for them to move and defend one another in their own mountain. But they're still not giving up. They're still fighting until the end. And unless I think when I speak to all of them, all of them are saying the only one that can save us is Israel. Israel is the only one that will save us.
So let's get back to what's happening right now. So the media is really, really messed up. I guess over the last 2 years, it has become kind of normal to just talk trash about Israel in media as much as possible. So there have been some really messed up headlines about what's going on, such as amid sectarian violence, Israel bombs Syria,
Yeah.
or what is happen? Why is Israel claiming to protect the? It's like everybody knows exactly what's. Everybody familiar with the conflict knows exactly that the Jews are being massacred right now, and Israel had to necessarily step in and all that. And now it's a whole controversy. But let's talk about what's happening right now, because right now, after Jolani and his Islamist government promised to somehow establish peace and coexistence in Syria, now especially over the last few weeks, we have seen this incredible attack against the Jews. How exactly did this start? What exactly happened here? I see that from the Islamic side, I see some accusations such as that the Jews are provoking it, and that they are that they are fighting or something like that. But it seems quite obvious that the Islamists are making excuses and twisting things. But what is going on really? How did this start?
Yeah. I will just say to your first comment also, it's very interesting how we can always trust mainstream media to cover for the bad guys and make the good guys look bad again and again. It's like 100% success rates. It's very, very weird how they keep doing that. But to your question about the Druze, so when Jolani took power, one of the first things that he demanded is that the Druze will hand out their weapons. And the Druze, which have a history with Jolani, because his people have murdered the Druze before and kidnapped, and etc. He's a terrorist. He's like a decorated terrorist. So they told him, sorry, we're not going to give up our weapons. We know what's happening here. We need some assurance. And they also told him, you did not take this government by democratical ways. You just took it by force, and all your people are ISIS and Al-Qaeda. You're ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So until we see that there's a proper election here and Syria has been governed in a way that is Syria for the people, and there were many Muslims actually that also agreed with that, the peaceful ones there. And then Jawlani said, no, you're going to hand up your weapons. And the Druze, they know Haybar, ya Yahud. They know the stories from the Quran. And they know what usually happens when someone surrender to Islamist groups. They will slaughter you and take your daughters. So they said, no, we're sorry. And meanwhile, the war, like you said, the massacre of the Alawites was happening at the same time. And there was suicide bombings of Christians and etc. And the government was not doing anything to stop that. So the Druze said, we're not going to give up our weapons, and we're going to keep the right to defend ourselves. So since then, they've been trying to frame them as terrorists, actually. And the collision started when there was, a fake recording. I don't know if it's fake or not, but there was no way to prove it. Actually, many people are saying that it's fake, of a Druze sheikh that was mocking the Prophet. And that's when they went. What is that?
I think I read that it is almost definitely fake.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't want to say it because I'm Druze, and then people say, of course, you say it's fake. So I'll leave it to the people to decide. But from what, every possible way and test that they did to it, it's fake. So it was an excuse that ignited this bloodthirst need of the jihadists, Al-Qaeda, Islam in Syria to go and kill the Druze. They were just looking for an excuse. And then Israel said basically to Jolani, hands off the Druze. And also Israel sent the message to Jolani that if you bring your forces down of Damascus, we will kill them. And there's a reason for that. It's not just because the Druze, it's because Israel know who Jolani is, and they know the people in Syria. We in the Middle East, we know things that I think people should start listening to us when we tell them who is who and what is what. So he couldn't really come and slaughter the Druze, and he was sending his proxies, the Bedouins, to come and do that. And the latest,
I want to very briefly, if you can hold that thought, I want to very briefly address that one issue here between Israel and Syria, because there are some people who are suggesting that Israel caused, or Israel is the one that actually brought Jolani into power, or that Israel helped, or something like that, because of some statements that Israel made after Assad fell and after Jolani took over. If there is any foreign government that directly helped Jolani and the Islamists get into power, it's not Israel, it is Turkey.
Yeah.
Turkey was directly there with them. Turkey organized, Turkey planned with them, Turkey did things with them, and Turkey is definitely no friend of Israel. And the Islamists in power are definitely no friend of Israel either. Israel did not celebrate or put the Jolani into power. What Israel did do is, however, is to, when Assad fell, Israel, the current Israeli government expressed some joy and some relief that Assad fell, and then hopefully and cautiously hoped that there would be some way to establish a new government, even with these Islamists, maybe to make a deal and to seek some peace. However, they did this cautiously. Israel is not a fan of either side here. Israel, however, had a long conflict with Bashar al-Assad, who was a sworn enemy and who was together with Iran and the so-called axis of resistance and all of that. But nobody actually ever trusted Jolani and his Islamists to somehow now be these peacemakers and all that. It was only a possibility to somehow maybe seek a deal, but Israel went in to temporarily occupy and watch in some territories in Syria, just because they don't trust the new Jolani government after Assad fell. But yeah, go ahead.
Let's talk also, maybe with your permission, about how failing our Muslim countries just keep again and again failing. Like, Jolani had the best opportunity in the world. Thanks to Israel, the Assad regime fell down and he took over the government, and Europe and America were all coming to him and trying to normalize the relationship. Israel came and said, yeah, let's normalize the relationship. And he did not do anything to make Syria better. And all he did was try to ethnically cleanse and murder, and now plunged Syria into an epic scale civil war, while he could have, if he would have only not tried to massacre minorities, he would have probably had a good country.
Yeah,
a good start. And I'm sure that all of the world would have really went and helped him. Everybody, I think everybody would have wanted Syria to see it succeed, except for the Muslims. They just want to burn everything that they touch, in Syria,
yeah.
the radical ones. So it's just a crazy situation. And Israel knew that. Israel knew that they can't trust Jolani and they can't trust his people. And that's why, by the way, thank God, Israel doesn't listen to anyone when they want to do stuff. And they went and they did the biggest airstrike in the history of probably maybe until Iran, that they went and destroyed the entire military of Assad almost, all of his air force and a lot of stuff and chemical weapons that were trying to build and all these things. Because just imagine if it would have fell down to the hands of these hooligans. What would have been seen now? I mean, I don't think they can fly any of these stuff, but in general.
It was kind of a funny thing, though. It was kind of funny. After Assad fell, Israel just went in and started mass bombing military locations all over Syria, and the world is like, "No, what are you doing? Stop! You can't do this." And Israel is like, "Okay, give us a minute. We'll just be done with this, and then we'll get out." But they just keep doing it, and Jolani doesn't even say anything. He's just completely quiet, which is
of course. In general, the Syrian army is on the bottom of the food chain as an army right now in the Middle East. Like, they're the weakest in the Middle East. They have no training. There's a bunch of jihadists that literally barbarians, and they don't have strategy, no tactics, and they don't want to mess with Israel. I mean, that's going to be a very bad thing for them. And if you ask me, they're really pushing it right now, because I feel like Bibi made that promise to the Druze. He didn't really think it through that much. Like, he said, it's the right thing to do, loyalty to my Druze people, our friends, our cousins. But he didn't really think that, these idiots will really come and try to slaughter the Druze. And now he's, stuck in the point where, should we really go and obliterate them? Is that where we want to go? I heard a funny, crazy theory today from an Israeli Middle Eastern specialist. He came in and said, if there is a chance even that Jolani have changed and became moderate, but he can't control his country, maybe he's hoping that by sending all these jihadists to the south, Israel will just get rid of all of them for him. Meanwhile, he will run away to Turkey, hide, and then come back and then he'll be able. And I was like, wow, that is a far stretch. But I mean, hey, I'm all up for it. Any one of these jihadists that goes to hell to meet 70 demon goats and he's the only virgin there, I'm for that. I'm for that. That's what they're gonna get. They're not getting any virgins, you know. So yeah, people will criticize Israel whatever they do, and I can say for a fact, Israel is the best country in the Middle East for minorities. It's the only place in the Middle East that minorities have complete freedom of religion, with all the problems that they have. You know, it's a country. It's like have a lot of downfalls, like any country.
I want to. There's a very funny story behind. When I say funny, I don't really mean funny, but there's a very, very interesting story or history behind the Druze politics in this area. By the way, we talked over the last few years a lot about mandatory Palestine and how when the Ottoman Empire fell and the British took over, they had a project to establish a Jewish homeland in the region and all that. At the same time, there were also works in Syria under the French leadership and the League of Nations to establish different states, different territories within what is called Syria, such as Greater Lebanon, then a state here in the west for the Alawites. And this was very much done or designed with demographics in mind, because this western part here, there's a large Alawite population even to this day. And then there would be a state of Damascus, there would be a state of Aleppo, and there is something down here, which is Jabal al-Druze state. So the mountain, the Druze mountain, the mountain of Druze state, which was part of the plan around the city of Suwaida, which is right now under attack from Islamists today, because at that time, the Druze were the vast majority of the population here in this place. They were, I think, over 85% of the population, then Christians and very few Muslims. So the same thing, to my knowledge, is still the case today. The place here is vastly populated by the Druze, with a small Christian minority and very few Muslims, actually. So there is, of course, a lot of pressure because the new Islamist regime just took over Syria. Now they have two remaining sections left. In fact, if I can put that on a map, that would be very, very good. There are two remaining issues left in this country. Oh yeah, here they have it. They have it very nicely right here. So there are two remaining issues left here for the Islamist government. Well, if you don't count Israel. So Israel was already in possession of these Golan Heights, which the Islamist regime indicated they might be able to recognize as Israel if they can somehow make a peace solution, which seems very unlikely right now. Israel also passed or crossed the borders and occupied these territories to say we're temporarily holding on to this and ensuring the safety here until we guys come together to an agreement. Then there is, aside from the larger Islamic control, there is the Kurdish and other minority factions to the right. But here, as you can see, in line with the historical presence of the Druze, there is the Druze autonomous section. And this is what the Islamists and what Jolani have a problem with, because the Druze, they fear for their safety, so they want to hold on to their weapons, they want to hold on to their security, their safety, and want to say, we are going to take care of ourselves right here. And the Islamists and Jolani say, no, everybody should lay down their weapons, everybody should get rid of their weapons, you should leave the security to us. And the Jews say, no, we don't want to do that, because we don't know what the Islamists are going to do to us if we lay down our weapons. We don't trust you guys. And now the Islamists are finding excuse after excuse to come and, as you can see here, marked on the map, to fight with the Jews and to massacre them. And we have videos. There are some really messed up videos, and I don't want to show any of those videos except for maybe one or two that are not very graphic. Videos of things that the Islamists themselves are filming as they're doing them to the Jews, to the Jewish civilian population and putting online on the internet and then bragging about it. The last thing that I saw was how above the gates of some place they hanged the dead bodies of several Jewish people, basically as a sign of, hey, we are in charge here.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some horrific videos where they just, slaughtered elderly people in their homes when they were drinking mat tea in the morning, in the hospital where they killed, babies were killed, charred bodies. It's very similar to what Hamas did, and they have the same glee in their eyes when they do that, the same celebration, and they keep, shouting Allahu Akbar. The more people they kill, the more they feel like they're doing the work of God. And yeah, it's a very messed up situation. That's a cool map, by the way. I need to start using that.
Yeah, this is so liveuamap.com. They have a very good system where they keep track of what's happening everywhere. I've been using that for a while now. It's very, very, very useful. Very useful. So here is a video that has been going around, and this is a very respected man. I don't remember his name.
Sheikh,
Yeah.
he's 80 years old. I forgot the name, some start with an M, but yeah, he's an 80 years old Sheikh, a very respected, known, very peaceful guy. And they, as you saw in the video, they went and they got him and they humiliated him, beat him up, shaved him. I heard that he was executed, but then I saw some tweets coming out that he actually survived. So I'm not so sure his state, but that's not the only one that they shaved and killed.
Yeah.
And in
So
some cases, they're shaving them with a knife, not even a shaving blade, just.
yeah. And you can see here the desperate situation. This is an 80-year-old man. He is an 80-year-old sheikh, a leader in his Jewish community. And they're going and shaving his mustache as a sign of humiliation. These Islamists actually are such evil, horrible, cowardly bastards that they go to an old man and record themselves humiliating this old man by shaving off his mustache, which is a very deliberate thing to do. They are shouting things like, these mustache wearers, these mustaches will cut off their mustaches. The mustache is very important because the Jews have had the mustache as a cultural, a religious symbol of honor, and also to distinguish themselves from the Muslims who keep who shave their mustaches off. So the Jews are recognized in Muslim society because of their mustaches, and here they are shaving off their mustaches. And according to some reports, he was later on executed. According to others, he's alive. There was another one which I saw, which I thought about this all day long. I don't know, man. It's just
that's a heartbreaking one. That's a heartbreaking one.
You see here a simple man who is completely helpless.
شوارب علنا شنو انت؟ شنو انت؟ شنو انت؟ خنزير انت شنو انت؟
What is he saying, by the way?
He's telling him, who are you? Who are you? And this guy is telling him, what kind of a question is that, you son of God? Like Ibn al-Halal, like son of dignity. He's telling him, like, what kind of an answer do you want from me? And then he slaps him and keeps telling, who are you? Who are you? You're a pig. And you can see he's actually trying to even talk, calmly and respectfully to them. Calling him Ibn al-Halal is like, son of dignity, or honorable person. Like it's a nice way to approach. Of course, he doesn't think they are, but it's just like you said, it's an evil. Interesting enough, when people see these images and they see these Syrian jihadists, and I've been saying that a lot because I live in Germany, and I tell a lot of people here, a lot of these jihadists that are seeing in Syria are in Europe right now. They're not that rare in Syria. And what's even very concerning right now is the question, is Syria becoming the next Gaza? Because you don't see almost any condemnation from the Syrian people. The media is all supporting that. There's a lot of Syrian people that are supporting that. And they literally maybe in some ways have sworn alliance to Al Qaeda, because Jolani is Al Qaeda. So Syria is becoming literally, and that's why I think many experts are saying that Syria is so close to an epic scale civil war. And it's not just a cool thing to say. I call Syria the Mad Max of the jihadist. It's the Mad Max of the Arab world.
Yeah. Here you have them bragging about.
A bunch of idiots.
He's
"Allahu
saying
Akbar, let's kill the
will-
pigs."
we will behead the pigs. That's what he's shouting here.
Yeah,
As they are on their way to visit the Druze.
friendly people after all.
Yeah.
Friendly
It looks like they're just after peace here, man. All they want is peace,
I think I really wonder if people understand in the West that the moment that these kind of people become a majority in your country, that's how your country is going to look.
Yeah.
That's how your country is going to look. There's no way that's going to turn the other way.
Wherever it goes, it poisons and destroys everything, man.
Yeah. It's very it's a crazy situation. And you mentioned something about the media. I was yesterday at the Charlie Kirk show. Charles
Oh, yeah?
Kirk. Yeah. So
Charlie Kirk, yeah.
yeah, very cool podcast. And the guy there asked me a question. He said, not in any malicious way. He just said, Israel just bombed Syria. Why are you guys doing that? And I came and I said, it's very funny how your mainstream media choose to show you what they choose to show you, but they forgot to tell you that for the last 3 days, the Syrian regime have been, slaughtering Druze and Christians right, left, and center, trying to complete genocide, ethnically cleanse the whole mountain. And then Israel went and told them to stop, and they listened. So they bombed their Pentagon, and then they stopped. So, but the mainstream media, like you said, they like to portray anything that will make Israel look bad, and they will just really ignore anything that will make the jihadists bad.
I saw a post yesterday on one of those very popular anti-Israel accounts, those anti-Israel news accounts, which just posted an image of a hospital, the hospital that was reported. Are there any details about that, by the way? So yesterday we saw videos going around of Druze seeking shelter in a hostage, and a woman or a nurse filming and saying, "We are in a desperate situation. We are all trapped here." Later on, a video started going around showing the people inside the hospital all dead. Is that accurate? Was that?
As far as I know from the sources that I've been getting reports that is very correct. I've heard people for some reason saying it's not, but I've seen so many videos from different cameras, different angles, showing the same hospital with only dead people inside and outside. So, and it's not like I've seen this video before. So from what I've seen so far and everything I've seen, including like, a baby in a box and just dozens of bodies outside, the whole staff is dead. And I'm talking to the people on the ground in Syria. They're telling me the same. They're telling me the hospital's not operational anymore. The doctors and nurses were slaughtered inside. The electricity is down. They burned the place down. It's just not a functional hospital. So everything that I'm hearing right now indicates that they went and slaughtered the hospital and took it out of commission.
Yeah. So I don't want to show the video here, but in the video you can see, so in the first video you can see a bunch of injured people and saying we are in a desperate situation. We have no way to go in the Suwaida hospital. And then later on a video comes out from the same place showing the entire place full of nothing but dead bodies, all dead bodies. And according to the local witness accounts, the Islamists basically were waiting outside and taunting the people, and eventually went inside the hospital and started killing everybody in there, from old to adult to young to child to baby. So some really messed up things happening there. And what I was going to say is, from one of these anti-Israel accounts, I saw a post yesterday just showing a screenshot of that hotel with people dead inside, and all it said was a hospital has been completely, or everyone inside this hospital has been killed in Syria, and so on. And the comment section, you should have seen it, is all, why is Israel doing this?
Yeah, my God. You want to hear the craziest Muslim spin-off that I've heard? And
Yeah.
we're actually witnessing history in the making, guys, repeating itself. So in 48, the Muslims came and tried to basically genocide all the Jews. They lost. They ran with their tails between their legs. And then they called this the Nakba Day, because the Jews, basically kicked them out because they came to murder them. And many of them ran, actually. They didn't kick all of them, just told them, don't come back. Syria now, they came to slaughter all the Jews, and then Israel intervened and saved them, and they lost the first, round. So now there's a lot of reports circling around these, Arab media outlets showing images and interviews with like poor Bedouins, and they're all saying that the Druze are trying to ethnically cleanse the Muslims in Syria, and that's why.
How is it even possible?
They're creating this in the second. It just shows you what a bunch of lies they keep saying. And I'm thinking, like, wait a second. You came with tanks on them, with military drones. They're a bunch of farmers in the mountains, and you came to kill them in their houses. You killed them in their houses. You butchered, you filmed, you recorded it, and then you lost. And then you're saying that they're trying to genocide you, and you're selling, and probably people are falling for that. 100%. College students in the US, easy will fall for that. That's like,
Yeah. You had over the last few days, lots of people saying, "Why is Israel is looking for another problem here?" Look at this one here. OSINT Defender, supposedly an OSINT account. Israel, who less than a week ago was bombing Iran, is now bombing the military and government in Damascus that kicked Iranian-backed forces out of Syria. Israel once again proves that it will do anything to prevent a unified and stable Syria. 4,800 likes at this point. This post immediately comes while
356,000 views. Yeah.
While the Islamists are massacring Druze, while the videos of them is massacring Druze are going around, after Israel repeatedly warned the Syrian government to say, step in and protect them, do not participate or else. And Israel then clearly showed, and we have also seen all before our eyes, Israel didn't need to show anything. We have seen clearly before our eyes, not only did the Jolani government fail to protect the Druze, we have also seen very clear evidence, proofs of members of the Jolani government directly going and participating in the massacre of the Druze there, upon which Israel said, okay, we warned you.
Yeah.
So Israel started bombing the hell out of Syrian government facilities and army facilities. And
Israel actually started gradually even. In the beginning, they shot one warning missile to a field and a bunch of jihadists. Then they shot a tank. And then after a while, when they saw it's getting more and more, they just literally bombed the living hell out of their Pentagon. And regarding, the claim that it's not the army, it's such a ridiculous thing to claim. That's like, you see them, they're doing it, the army, and then they claim it's not. Who have drones? There's literally military drones dropping stuff on them. There's tanks and artillery shooting and shelling the villages there. So, and then they say, no, it's not the army. but that is such a Islamist thing to say.
Yeah, he also Jolani also came out saying that we stand with the Druze or something like that, which like dude, your armies are seen massacring the Druze. Who are you kidding?
Yeah, no, Jolani have completely lost control over Syria. Like, there's even if he tries to stop them, and I don't think he is, no one would listen to him. Syria have literally became Mad Max of the jihadists around the globe, and that's why there's actually the Druze have caught several Chechen fighters and other fighters. There's jihadists coming from all around the globe to go and celebrate and feast. And I've said that one time in my show, and I think it's important for people to understand, the radical Muslims are trying to live like the days of Muhammad, the Prophet, and his warlords. And they're not accountants. They don't have pensions. They don't invest in SP 500. They're not doctors. The way they make a living, a lot of these people, is literally by creating war gangs, and then they drive to different places. and they kill the man and take the women as sex slaves and then loot everything.
Yep.
And then repeat. And you have a lot of these different factions, and they always come. That's why when you see jihadists driving in a column, a lot of times they will ask, hey, which faction you're from, which group you're from. And they get excited from that. There's an interesting thing about this video. Maybe you play it and then I'll say it.
Yeah, so this video here, the guy is singing, or they're singing together. There's no wait, let me see.
هذا صديق والسويدة بدي غني هذا الموال ما ضل شارب يا سويدة وما ضل شروال ما ضل شارب يا سويدة وما ضل شروال.
Okay, he's saying there are no Sharabi left in Sweden.
Mustaches. There's no mustaches left in Sweden and no more sharwal. This is like the Druze pants, the religious pants that they have.
Okay, yeah, so like the
like
shalwar.
Yeah, the sharwal, yeah. But a very funny, interesting thing about that, sorry for cutting in, there's another picture that I posted on my social media that very shortly after this song, where you see what seems to be their pickup truck with these guys, and especially him, completely mushed into pieces. You can barely recognize anything except from some pieces of his beard and his face. And it looks like Israel, shot a hellfire into his face. So that made me happy.
That wasn't a good ending for him.
But he did not have any mustache left after that. Let's just say it that way.
So he's singing here gleefully and joyfully. This is Sweden. Sweden, once again, the city of the Druze. There are no more mustaches left here. By mustaches meaning Druze, and no more shalwar left, so their pants left, implying that they ripped them off or killed them. But then later on, this guy is killed by Israel. Very good.
Yeah, very good. But it just shows you that there's a clear ethnical cleansing attempt that is happening in Syria.
Yep.
And no one in the Western world is either aware of it or they're not caring about it too much. And it's heartbreaking because for people who don't know, the Druze contain probably less than 1.5 million worldwide. It's a very, very small community. And it is a very, very endangered community, especially in Muslim countries, like any other community, basically. And do not really care about the massacre and the slaughter of the Druze in the most horrific way. Just it makes you kind of think, like, kind of understand how the Holocaust happened and how everybody pretended, like now, think that they're all heroes. If I was there, I would not let it happen. Yeah. And I would probably do something. But, if you were there, most likely, there's few people that will speak, not the majority.
This is kind of remarkable, actually. So Druze, so Mansour basically earlier just explained it, but contrary to most groups out there, do not allow conversion. In fact, if a Druze marries a non-Druze person, the person is generally considered rejected and shunned and all that. So there is literally no way of getting of converting to or becoming Druze later on. So it is a completely closed community. Nevertheless, despite that, a very significant number in the world that survived by themselves, protecting themselves as a community. And now there are attempts by the Islamists to get rid of them, to kill them.
One of the reasons that the Druze and the Jews get along so well is because they don't have any missionary need or want in their life. The Druze can't convert you. The Jews don't really want to convert you. They make it very hard to join them. And they basically have this philosophy of live and let live. So that's why they got along very well, because, it's very nice to have, a roommate that accepts you as you are and tells you, yeah, do whatever you want, man. I'm fine with you as you are. And that made them, work very well together, but that doesn't work in most Muslim countries. There's no such thing as live and let live. There's submit or die. Yeah. And
That's the big problem. So there were reports that that while this was happening, they were also going after Christians. I tried to confirm some of it. It seems that necessarily they probably targeted some Christians, because there are also after Jews there is a Christian minority in Sweden, which are the other only group that actually really lives there in peace with the Jews. And there were reports that the Islamists did kill Christians in this as well. There was one report which is confirmed that they actually burned down or burned and pillaged the inside of a church in Sweden, which I have here, which I also posted. You can see this is the Saint Michael or Mar Michael Church in Sweden, Syria, where we have footage after they went through. They burned and broke and kicked things inside the church. I'm not sure about the number of Christians that have been killed. There's barely any way to confirm the number of Jews that have been so far killed here, because the Jews are very much on their own, and the Islamists and their government are trying to just hide everything and suppress everything, and the only ones standing by the side of the Jews are Israel. So things are really cloudy. And one thing is for sure, I said it, David Wood said it on my channel, we said it together many times, many others have said it, the idea that this Islamist government, that Jolani would come in and then be a solution, right, to make for a peaceful Syria, is complete nonsense. You cannot coexist with Islamists, and these guys are Islamists.
Yeah, and Islam doesn't never de-escalate, it only escalates. And also just the fact, that's the thought that a decorated jihadist will one day put a jacket and start looking like a hipster. And then you think, oh, okay, he's a good guy now. I mean, we need to remember that he was in Al-Qaeda and in ISIS at their peak of evilness.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not just, he's an Olympic level terrorist. He's decorated. He became like a leader in both. And then he jumped and he started his own startup. I call jihadists taking over countries, I call it the Muslim startup. When the Jews have a startup, they start something, then they have a unicorn idea. So two jihadists will come and say, listen, I have a unicorn idea. What we're going to do is we're going to kidnap a country, and then we're going to control the education system, and we're going to oppress everyone, and then we're going to make everybody miserable and poor, and then we're going to blame Israel, and then we're going to attack Israel. Israel's going to get pissed, come and start kicking our ass. We're going to use everyone as human shields. Me and you are going to get out of the country, pocket all the money, like others do, and then we're going to become rich. And I tell you what's the best part, the world will start hating Israel, so we'll start sending us more money. And then the other Ahmed's like, no way, Habibi, no, I'm telling you it's going to work, no way. Listen, Gaza did it, Palestine did it, Sinwar did it, I'm telling you, Arafat, he invented that. No, really? Yes, let's do that. And they go and they kidnap a country, they oppress their own country, they mess with Israel, America, they get their ass kicked, they hide behind the women and children, and everybody sends them donations. They take all the donations, they steal the food from their people, and they do it on repeat. And I think they got onto it, that it's working. So I think
basically,
is doing the same thing.
Basically London, UK.
Yes.
That's what
it's happening in the UK. Yeah.
It's happening all over the West, and
it's in the UK. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is what we need to put a stop to. I mean, I have been talking about this forever, for ages now. We're talking about it here all the time. This is how, I'm sorry to say, but this is how Islam functions. I'm not going to make a distinction here between Islamist and Islam. This is just how Islam functions. I'm sorry to say it. I'm not sorry to say it, actually. This is how Islam functions, and people need to call it out, put a stop to it, turn their backs on it, get rid of it. And foremost, it should be for the Muslims themselves. The Muslims themselves should find a better way of living, with truth, with goodness, with peace, instead of following the Islamic evil from which they themselves suffer. They live in a dark, messed up world where they repeatedly always destroy their own countries and their own communities, make themselves and each other suffer, and then make everybody else also suffer, and then they say, "Oh, it's actually not our fault. It's America. It's Israel. It's their fault. They're doing this to us. It's because of them. Look, we are killing each other because of them. Look, we
Yeah.
destroyed our own country because of them." Stop with Islam.
And then they run to a new country that have better life, and they repeat.
Yeah.
They want to destroy that country, enforce Sharia law in that country, and then that country get destroyed, then it will jump country. That's why that they're behaving like a plague. Really, it's the most dangerous thing almost that the world is facing right now.
Yeah.
And the people like me and you get called a lot of names for actually trying to warn them,
That's true.
because we've seen it. I've seen it, especially in the special forces. I've went and I've seen the darkest sides of Islam. I've seen like really evil stuff. Now people are starting to see a lot of things that I saw before because you have social media, but I've been seeing this shit for a very long time. It's just evil.
You know what? When so I grew up Muslim myself. I know how Muslims think. I learned how Islamists think and how they view things, what they believe, and all of that. And I have for a long time now spoken out against Islam and have received death threats and all kinds of messed up things myself. I have occasionally heard and seen of certain things, but in all honesty, Mansour, when October 7 happened, and I saw the videos, and then I went there, and I saw even more, and I talked to people, even to me, with my Islamic background, it really, really messed me up. And I couldn't believe how people can actually do things like that to another human being. So if even to me this is very shocking and unfathomable and all that, I can understand that people who don't have a background or any familiarity with Islam and the Middle East might not understand this at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a wickedness, and that the rejoicing over killing was brought to life so strong in October 7 that I think many people in the world just kind of shut down. They kind of like, I can't believe this is, how can this really be? And it's hard for people to imagine in the West that there is places in the world that this is the majority of people that want that see that.
Yeah.
There is places in the world that this is not just serial killer, crazy person. Like literally, most of the people there would support that, will want that. One of these places is Gaza. They wanted that, they supported that, they celebrated that. And there is place in the world that's just evil. Like, in a generalization, perspective, there is just places that are evil.
Yeah.
There's very evil, practices there. They treat women so wrong. They treat children so wrong. Let's not talk about LGBT and other stuff. That's like, complete death sentence.
Mhm.
And the West, I think, many places, they just can't really understand that this could be. And they always try to make excuse for them. It must be because of misunderstanding, because of oppression, because of that, because of this. October 7th, the cruelty didn't surprise me because I've seen that cruelty many times. I stopped many of these cruel people, sometimes after they did the action or not, but the velocity of it shocked me and also it just hurt me so much, because there is religions in the world that, cherish life, and life is such a sacred thing. Among them is the Druze, Christians in many places in the world. And seeing how they came and just rejoiced so much in the humiliation that they could cause, and how many can they kill and rape and burn and film themselves and laugh at them, just like these guys in Syria right now, singing and laughing about how can they kill and humiliate and etc. It felt like, something so beautiful fell into the hands of monsters, and it just really hurt you inside. It was just an ugly feeling inside.
And this is why people need to oppose such a dark, messed up religious belief and ideology. It leads people to all kinds of darknesses and all kinds of evils. I've seen lots of them online justifying what is happening right now and saying, "Oh, yeah, no, they deserve it. They deserve it. They are basically like the Jews. They are they're this and they're that." And
Honestly, the Jews are one of the best things that happen in the Middle East, and I'm saying this as an Arab, and it's so important. Seriously, Israel is the only hope for peace in the Middle East, and it's unbelievable how backwards most of these people in the West got it. It's literally, it's the only place that treats people fairly. It's the only place that is safe in the Middle East, that empower minorities, and that also is protecting minorities. I mean, look what happened to minorities outside of Israel. They're getting killed, they're getting butchered, they're getting slaughtered. So just to think about how wrong can you get it, how wrong can you be. You've been to Israel, right? You said.
Yes.
Was that your first time in Israel, this trip?
Yeah, the first time. That was in a few months after October 7. It was in at the beginning of 2024. Yeah.
Wow. Have you been to Tel Aviv and some of these places?
I've been to, so we stayed in Jerusalem most of the time, but also been to Tel Aviv. I've been to some of the kibbutzim around the Gaza envelope. Went to where the Nova Music Festival happened, Reim. Went to Ashkelon, some of these places. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you've seen Tel Aviv, for example. What a liberal city. It's Tel Aviv. It's like Berlin, only without all the Muslim crazy guys and with a beach. That's kind of how it feels. It's with the better weather and the beach.
Yeah.
And it's a very modern place. It's a very liberal place. And then have liberal people around the world hating it so much. You couldn't get it any more wrong. It's
because
crazy.
they don't know anything. They don't know anything. They don't know anything. In fact, I saw recently a religious Jewish guy who teaches Jewish stuff to people. He was saying that he actually doesn't really like Tel Aviv because it is basically no different from a regular European city, and it should be more Jewish in his opinion. That's what he was saying. But the irony of it was very, very funny.
Yeah, no, thank God that Tel Avivs are not listening to him. I love Tel Aviv.
Mosh Cohen says, great Mansour, please help me connect AP to Khalifa.
Mia Khalifa, he means the porn star.
Okay,
no,
don't
there's a very good friend of mine, by the way. You should definitely connect with him. He's a Druze Israeli. His name is Khalifa. His podcast is called The Rebellion of the Caliphs. He's very active on Telegram, does a lot of translations, etc. Also, very knowledgeable guy about the Middle East. He doesn't look anything like Mia Khalifa. He's actually a shepherd. He's actually a shepherd. He has a big beard, and he's a real shepherd. A brilliant guy. You should. You have good English.
I'm glad you clarified that. But yeah, connect me.
You got excited for a second. You got excited.
No, I didn't.
She is such a dumb girl.
she is really, really bad. She is really, really, really messed up. I mean, she doesn't live in Lebanon because her own community will not accept her. They would mistreat her horribly. They would kill her. And so she goes to the West, and then she talks trash about the only people who wouldn't mistreat her in the Middle East.
In defending the people who would kill her. Yeah.
Yeah. What a... I don't even know what to say, man. Seth, that real XY says, a fatwa issued authorized the killing of Jews for criticism of Muhammad. Mansour in Germany also. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. So I deliberately don't want to talk much about Jews' beliefs, about different religions, about Islam and all that, because I don't want to contribute in any way to any rumors and hearsay or hostilities against Jews by certain people here. But the Jews have a long history and a tradition of establishing certain fundamental moral values, such as respect and dignity and all that, while being completely respectful of other people's religious beliefs and simply leaving them to the others and just to furthering their own community and their own goals and all that. It would be very stupid to this claim by these Islamists that the Jews would somehow preach to their own community all kinds of bad things about Muhammad, and which ceaselessly or unnecessarily mock him and attack him, and then agitate people and all that. Considering that the Druze don't even, to my understanding, to my knowledge, don't even engage much in religious teaching and religious preaching, but rather simply live life with basic moral values.
Most Druze people are not even allowed to be religious. They're kind of just live your life, be respectful, be honorable, and that's it. But just the notion that it's okay to go and slaughter a whole group of people because you believe that someone insulted your prophet, and then everybody run along with that. Like literally, people are jumping on trucks in the tens of thousands with like glee in their eyes and blood in their teeth, and they just go, yeah, let's go and behead them, because one of them sent an audio tape that is fake, and they said that he insulted our prophet. Like, tell me you have a problem with your religion without saying the word problem in religion. Like, how? This is like insane. Insane.
It is a completely unstable, messed up religious system, which just. What do you think about do you think that eventually a solution should come where the Druze are independent from Syria, from the Syrian government, if the Syrian government continues like this, and they have an independent, autonomous or independent territory adjacent to Israel, where they can work together with Israel and protect themselves from stuff like this?
I'm sure that you will agree with me on that, and I think it's important for the viewers also to hear. There will never be safety for the Druze or the Christians or any minority in Syria while they're under this Muslim regime of Syria.
Yes.
Never. Not today, not 100 years from now, never. And the only way that they can ever live in peace and safety is either if Israel takes them, or if the world and Israel will help them to create a demilitarized zone in that area and provide some kind of protection where Christians, Alawites, Druze, any peace-loving human, ex-Muslims, there's a lot of them in Syria. They're just afraid. They talk to me quite a lot. Like, I'm a former Muslim, but I'm just afraid to say it because it will kill me. And then they can go to the south, and I tell you what's going to happen when that, and if that happen, God willing, that will happen, is that you will suddenly see that the southern part of Syria will become so successful. It will have tourism, it will have science, it will have literature, art, business, peace. And the northern part of Syria will just keep going back in time like a bunch of savages. And I think that will piss them off even more, because for a religion that keeps claiming that they are the religion of peace and that they are the ultimate, most upgraded version of life that planet Earth have ever brought forth so far, and all humans should be like them, they're doing very, very bad with this PR kind of, come join us, we got cookies, come join us, we behead people in the streets, and we stone women under the ground, and we sex marry like young girls, and there's like only perverts who think, yeah, that's a great idea, I can go there, I can have many wives, and I can have young girls to be my wives. So I think if the Druze will ever get that chance, and I hope they will, that would be a really good solution. It's going to also be very good for Israel, because that's going to give kind of a buffer zone for Israel for security and keeping these jihadists further from them.
And it will probably be the first state, the first entity in the region that is actually close to Israel, and that actually Israel can have proper, good, reliable relations with.
It would probably be the second most successful country in that region. Because, like, okay, well, what was your secret? We got rid of Islam. That works, man, works wonders. The moment we kick them out, science, progress, culture, beautiful, great, tourism. I love it. I love women are safe, children are having proper education. No one is teaching kids to be suicide bombers. No, we don't do that here. Wow. What's the secret? Islam is left there. That's literally how to do it, man. The moment you get rid of it, things will go good. Guaranteed.
Maybe the West should listen to some of the advice here, and also take that. London should take some of the advice.
Me and you should go to the UN and open a falafel stand outside, and kind of open like buy me a falafel, buy me coffee, buy me a falafel. Open a stand outside and just start to talk to them.
Let's do it.
Or be taxi drivers. People listen to taxi drivers. We should be taxi drivers driving around the UN buildings, just taking them and just having conversations with them. Put some sense in them. Here's a business startup for us, man.
Octopus with head says Israel stayed with the Jews. Yes, it still stands with the Jews. Are there, Legimathigan says, are there clan connections between Suwaida Bedouins and Negev Bedouins? That would be even worse. I pray for the people of Jabal Druze.
No, not too much. The Negev Bedouins are more connected to Egypt. So some of them have connections with Egyptian Bedouins and with Jordanian Bedouins, not very much with the Syrian Bedouins. They're not really connected to them.
Nice. MTX saw Westerners downplaying literal top lips being snipped off. They would rather the Druze be genocided than accept Israel is doing something good. I haven't personally seen those videos, but I've heard of them. Have you seen that? But with some Jewish people's lips being cut off or something like that in the attempt to supposedly cut off their mustaches. I don't know.
I think he's meaning more about, kind of metaphorically.
Yeah,
Or maybe
but I've seen some descriptions of that literally happening as well. But yeah. But yeah, people don't want to give Israel any good credit. Islam would rather plunge the whole world into war just so they could massacre non-Muslims and implement Sharia law. That's very Islamophobic, very rude of him. Ein Ausländer, he is some guy who gifted 50 memberships, 50 more memberships, 150.
I fell asleep on the button, man.
200, 250, 300. What's going on here? What's wrong with you?
How does this membership thing go? Like, I've seen it on my channel as well, and I gotta admit, I never really took some time to study it. So I see these people randomly giving membership, and I'm thinking like, that's nice. 450 wow.
memberships. This person gifted 450 memberships. Well, first off, very nice, very cool, very, very well done, very nice.
Fire.
But what it basically is and people pay some amounts of money that you can establish those ranks yourself, but people become members. They can have custom emojis. They can have certain titles. But yeah, whenever they make a comment, they're just kind of highlighted and all that. It's kind of nice.
So anyone who's a member is actually paying money to the channel?
Yeah, mostly to the channel, but part of it also goes to YouTube.
Yeah, of course. That's great. Okay, now I know to thank them next time.
Torah is the World gifted 5 memberships and another 5 memberships and another membership, 12 memberships. People just giving out memberships here now.
I love Torah. He's a good guy.
Nice. Thank you, Torah. Rachel says, AP, I'm traveling to Israel next week, staying in Jerusalem. Any tips apart from don't go? No, definitely do go. Definitely go to Jerusalem right now. I think the best time to travel to Jerusalem or to travel to Israel in general was the months after October 7, because I think lots of people were afraid to go, but those were also the best times to go, probably. Right now is probably still a very good time to go, but go. Support the businesses, support the people, and also go and take in and see the beauty of Israel and the beauty of Jerusalem for yourself. Interact with the people. I was amazed when I went there, and nobody's paying me to say this, which is, of course, something I would say if I was paid. But go there, take it all in, enjoy it. But make sure if you go to Jerusalem to also go to the Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum Memorial there, and to see as many religious and holy sites and historical sites as possible. And to
I would even add to that what you just said. Guys, Israel is probably safer than most places in Europe, if not. I feel safer as an Arab in Israel than in Europe. Especially as someone who's outspoken and speaking, publicly about the things that we talk about. So Israel is a very safe place. And just in the media, they make so much focus, of crazy stuff. So people thinking they're going to literally a war zone with sandbags everywhere. But it's a beautiful, safe country, very friendly people. And just like, AP said here, go to the Holocaust Memorial. That's a good experience. A good, I'm not talking like in a fun way, but just a life-changing experience. It's very important.
Do it. Now you have two people saying it. See, Apocalyptic. So great to see you guys streaming together. Love you both. Greetings from Germany. Thank you all for your amazing work. Greetings to you. Greetings to you.
Greetings back. She's a great
Good to
one.
see
I see her on my channel as well.
Good to see you here. Mosh, what's up? Cutting the mustache of the Jews, cutting the long Jewish sideburns. We both know who did the latter. Different people, same ideology. Yeah, you could say that. It's a symbolic act of humiliation done just to humiliate these people, just to subjugate them, to assert authority, to make them as little as possible, to inflict pain, emotional pain, psychological warfare, whatever it is. It's just such a nasty thing to do, man. Absolutely nasty.
Yeah. And there's a lot of love for Hitler in these sections of the world. They really like him.
Oh yeah, there is very much. I see you recently made a video about that, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pissed off a lot of people. I basically said that probably 80% of the pro-Palestinians in Europe love Hitler.
Might be true. Seth, that real X spy, says Bishop Antonius said Greek, Eastern Orthodox Sweda. We will remain in the mountain until the end. God help us. From X. Oh yeah, I saw that just before I went live. I couldn't really look into it. Bishop Antonio. Bishop Antonio.
Yeah. Actually, if you don't mind me saying a few things about that, there is several Christian men who died recently fighting alongside the Druze in Sweden to protect their mountains. There's several recalling of incidents, that I've heard from numerous sources, that some of these jihadists captured a house of a Christian family and basically kept torturing them for the fun and used it as a base. And, doing all the things that we know that they do with girls and women in front of their husbands, and kept, fighting. So the Christians in El Sueda as well are in grave danger if it fall completely into the hands of the jihadists. But that's in general, all the Christians in Syria are in great danger with this kind of government. Sooner or later, it's going to explode in their face.
Yeah, I saw this post. I haven't checked the actual source yet, but Bishop Antonius Saad of the Greek Orthodox Church, in response to the ongoing Syrian jihadist attacks against Druze and Christians in Sweden, said, "We will remain on these mountains until the end. God is with us." Powerful. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Very nice. Sweden demographics. Let me check that quickly. I really wonder right now. According to most recent numbers, Druze make up over 90% of Sweden. Christians make up around 7%, and Sunni Muslims around 3%. It says. Okay, I see. Interesting. Hunting shark, just waiting for the UN, BBC, CNN, MSNBC, Amnesty International, Western leftists to come out and call out the genocide of the Jews.
Keep waiting.
It's too difficult for them, and they don't have the time for this. They don't have the time for this. It's too difficult.
No, it also will make their friends look bad. They don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Heaven Bound hadn't even joined the stream yet and got gifted a membership. Haha, thank you. I know Slender. Oh, hi, AP and Mansoor. Hi.
Good job.
Dolan is a super sticker. Thank you so much. Coffee House Dialogue. What's the update on the Christians in Syria? For as much flack as I gave Antioch for selling out to Islamism, I don't want them dead. Yeah, I also don't like how some of the people in the Antiochian church talked about the conflict and about Hezbollah and all that. That said, I would also not want to see them get hurt. So what do you think the situation with Christians outside of Sweden is in Syria? Do you think there is
If you remember, there was a suicide bombing that happened in Damascus in a church.
Yeah.
And so the guy who walked in there, apparently he came with a team of 4. And the plan was that he will go start shooting and then go Allahu Akbar and blew himself up. And then the other guys will start shooting the responders, but they kind of ran away and they were chased. There were a bit reports in the beginning, but then it all faded out. They didn't want to talk about it too much, which is, quite normal in these kind of regimes to hide the truth. But just like people need to understand that in the eyes of Islam, Christians are a much, much bigger enemy than Jews. Jews were a nuisance. There was just a small group that got subjected, slaved. The real war of the Muslim empire was with the Christian empire.
Yeah.
And they got defeated by the Christian empire. They lost to them. They were never really defeated completely, but the Christian empire became later on democracy, science, and et cetera, and they stayed and they crumbled and fell down in corruptions, but they still keep that dream of one day. And that's why countries like Iran will say America is a great Satan and Israel is a small Satan. And once they're done with the other things to deal with, they will go against the Christians. Right now, they don't want to do that, although their people are going, is because they really don't want to also piss off America on top of everything. But I think don't be fooled, people in America or anywhere around the world. The Christians in Syria are a very, very bad place to be. And I know several of them that talks. That's the church, exactly.
This is the Mar Elias Church, the Prophet Elijah Church in Damascus, which was bombed. When was that? Several weeks ago, almost a month ago, in June, in 22nd of June. So this was attacked by a suicide bomber in Damascus. Beautiful church was damaged, and lots of people were killed. So 31 people, including their perpetrator. So 30 people died here. I wouldn't really call him a person. Over 50 have been injured, and this was done by the Islamists under the watch of the Jilani government once again. But you bring up a good point. Sometimes we forget things, and I think the West has also forgotten it very much. And when I talk about this, when I talk about which religious group is hated more by Muslims, we do talk a lot about the very hateful and messed up language directed at the Jews. But you have a point here, which is that I also talked about this with Dr. Einat Wolf, for whom I have a lot of respect, and we also kind of basically established that throughout history, the Muslim perspective on Jews was that these guys we will eventually get rid of them, but the general perspective was that Jews are pathetic people that are at our mercy, and they should do whatever we say, and we can kick them around. And if they get out of line, we will just, we will set them straight by force, and so on. But with the Christians, it was always much worse, because the Christians weren't pathetic, and the Christians had the power to fight back, and they did fight back brutally. So the Muslim world still has a lot of envy and a lot of resentment against Christians, and they would love to get back at one point.
Yeah, hey, man, me and you having a podcast and having a laptop, and anyone back home to have a smartphone is thanks to the Christians, like it or not, because they stood strong and brave and defended planet Earth from the Muslims. We're living in a better world. Everybody did crazy stuff back then, undoubtedly, but thank God that they won. Otherwise, we'd be living under these lunatics right now.
We'd be living in a really, really, really messed up world.
Yeah.
Here's Einat Slender making more, gifting more memberships. Thank you, Einat Slender. Ophelia said, thank you. Lord SL said, Allah is Allah, Baal, or Moloch. So Allah is, I'm only speaking for myself now. I don't want Mansour to get any hate for this, but obviously, before the rise of Islam, the Kaaba was a temple that was dedicated to the worship of Hubal, and Hubal is most associated with being a pagan polytheistic Arab deity that is often associated with Baal in the Bible, because these are deities that are simply adopted from certain Levantine religions, from Canaanite religions, and all that. So polytheistic beliefs were very much known for syncretism and for taking a god that some others believe in into their own religion, into their own culture, because they didn't have the whole idea that our God is true and all others are false. They thought there were probably endless gods, so they would accept one god from here and one god from there and so on. And Hubal is probably the Arab way of speaking about Baal in the Bible. So it's very, very likely that the Arab polytheists around the Kaaba were worshipping their own perception or their own version of Baal, whom they called Hubal. And he was the god of the Kaaba and also had daughters in their culture. And Muhammad then took over that religion and turned Hubal into the one god, basically. Dissociated lots of the polytheistic aspects from Hubal, turned it into a monotheistic religion, but also kept the holy place that is for Hubal and many of the traditions that were established for Hubal, and thereby created a new religion that is supposedly Abrahamic, that is supposedly bound to Judaism and Christianity, but that is actually basically pre-Islamic polytheistic worship of messed up entities. So that is the very likely explanation here. But I'm only speaking for myself. This was very Islamophobic, I know.
I studied the exact same thing in university, and they said it 1-to-1, like you said. So the scholar in the academy who study history, that's how they see it, because there's just a lot of evidence. Alhamdulillah, exactly. What is that picture that you have on the right, on the left?
Which
behind
one?
you?
This one?
No, the other left, other right. Yeah.
This one
yeah.
here?
Yeah. Is that
That
a
is
saint?
yeah, he's so I'm an Orthodox Christian now, but he's considered a saint in the Catholic Church, and he's this is Saint Maximilian Maria Kolbe, who was who in the Holocaust he was a Catholic priest who was sent to the concentration camps and gave his life to protect others, to help others, and was killed by the Nazis.
Crazy. I didn't know that you're a Christian.
Oh yeah, I used to be an atheist, and was an agnostic for much of the last 10 years or so. I recently, half a year ago or so, started converting to Christianity. So
wow,
I am now.
You want to hear a crazy story about Christians in Syria that my friends just shared with me? Wow, I didn't know that. I always thought you were an atheist, but I haven't studied too much. So my contacts in Sweden, who are fighting alongside Christians, said that one of the Christians in his group that's fighting alongside with him told him the story that during this invasion, the Muslims came and took his house and started, kind of humiliated them and started mocking him in front of his wife and his daughter, telling him, build a cross for us. And he kind of built, and they said, okay. Called the daughter and says, would you like us would you like to see us crucify your father with nails, just like Jesus Christ? And started playing with them. Meanwhile, they were just, toying with them. And then they wanted to take the phone from the daughter, and the daughter, she's a little girl. So she was telling them, please, it's my phone, kind of just innocent girl. And then the mother said, please take my phone, don't take hers. Mother instinctive kind of thing. And then they looked at the mother and smiled and says, we're going to take your daughter. And, what a terrible thing to hear that. And when they were kind of, taking the daughter and pointing guns at them, the mother said, the husband, he's a Christian, but he's not a following Christian. That's the story that I heard from the Druze, from the Christian himself and from the Druze himself. So they actually told the same story. And the mother went on her knees and said to her husband, let's start praying. And he said, don't pray. They'll hear us. They'll kill us. That's not a time to pray. And then the wife came and told him that is exactly the time to pray. Wow. And she started praying. And while she was praying, the Israeli airstrike landed right outside their house, blowing explosions. These guys got so scared, they ran away. So they see that prayer in a way as the way that saved them. By praying, and she prayed, to Jesus and through Mary. I'm not so sure which group which affiliation she goes to, but that's just one of the stories that are happening right now with many Christians and many Druze there. They're all just praying to God to rescue them.
Wow.
And they all are also saying the only one that is probably going to come and do that is Israel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very,
It was shared with me today.
that's, wow, that's very, very, that's beautiful. Thank you. May I pray that all the people in Syria, in Israel, in the Middle East find peace, and that these monstrosities end, that there is an end to this.
Amen.
Soon.
Amen.
YMP says, is Israel able to provide supplies to Sweden? I think they have been actually kind of they have established a little bit of a corridor of giving
Air
safe
supplies
passage to
mostly,
people.
but
Yeah.
if you ask me, not enough. I would wish to see more. There's something happening behind the scenes there, but in general, yes, there have been supplies and also firepower to protect them, but it's not enough.
I was wondering what the religious parts, what the rabbis in Israel will say about the whole issue. I saw a report earlier that the prominent rabbis of Israel all support standing up for and defending the Jews in Syria, which was very refreshing to see. And so the Times of Israel has an article now which says prominent Israeli rabbis back intervention in Syria on behalf of the Jews, and the reasoning is very simple, which is to help to stand up for those who are oppressed by the evil ones, to help the Jews who have proven over and over again that they are our friends, and so on. So it's good to see.
In general, the Druze have become one of the most loved religions in Israel. Some Jews love the Jews more than they love the Jew themselves, because throughout all the wars, and all the tragedies, we stood side by side with our Jewish brothers. But October 7 was the peak where many, many Druze lost their lives because they jumped out of their beds, kissed their family goodbye, and just went into the pits of hell to rescue Jewish mothers that were locked in a bomb shelter with a bunch of jihadists that want to go in and kill and burn them alive and rape them. And again and again, the Druze just went and fought bravely and rescued and saved and stood shoulder to shoulder with them when the whole world hated them. And the Jews lately have just seen that overwhelming love and support. And the Jews are so used for people in the world to hate them. But when they see someone that loves them, it touches them, it grabs a good spot in their heart. And I know that because I live with many of Jews. Most of my friends are Jewish. And with that, rabbis came, secular people came. The support that the people of Israel are having for the Druze is insane. It's in the government decisions making, that's where politics come in and world pressure, and you have America saying things, or Saudi Arabia saying things, Turkey. There's a lot of things behind the scenes happening. That's where things get complicated. But from the support of the people, they love Israel. And also I think a lot of religious people in Israel are starting to say that Israel is behaving right now like they're supposed to be, light to the nation, by going and sticking out. Israel have no logical reason to go and defend the Druze in Syria. It's an enemy country. It's citizens of an enemy country, and the regime of that country is killing its own citizens. No reason. And on top of that, they're already engaged in 650 days of ongoing war in several fronts. Their soldiers are tired. They're running, lower ammunition. The market is a big toll on the market in Israel, on the civilians in Israel. And to go and just engage in another war for the sake of minorities that are not Jewish in a foreign land is just, insane. But they're doing that. I don't see Americans going and fighting in Sudan to rescue the Christians that are being genocided in Sudan or in many places, in the Middle East. And that's a Christian nation. I don't see Europeans doing that at all. Israel is literally going out of her way to defend minorities, and many Jews in Israel are seeing that as the way that Israel should be, a light to the nations. They were called to be Or Goyim, And they are in many ways, in startup, high-tech, medicine, all kind of stuff, but also in sticking out and defending others. And they're starting to behave for the first time. We're seeing Israel. That's coming from many military experts. For the first time, we're starting to see Israel behave like a regional power.
Yeah.
Coming and saying, we are the power here. We dictate the rules. You abide by our rules. You play by our rules. And thank God, because they're a good country. So they're saying our standards is you don't hurt minorities, you don't do crazy stuff, and if not, you're gonna mess with us. And Israel never done that before.
I think after October 7, also something happened with Israel, which is kind of like this attitude of we don't care anymore about the world's approval. We will just do whatever we think is right. So that's pretty much the attitude right now. But here is Rabbi Kalman Ber, who is the chief Ashkenazi rabbi of the chief rabbinate in Jerusalem. What he said is, we are witnessing a brutal campaign of murder against the Jewish people. These are acts that we and all religious leaders around the world must not ignore or remain silent in the face of. We have seen savage beasts descend in fury upon innocent civilians without distinguishing between man and woman, elder and child. We are reminded of the dark days of history when bloodthirsty nations committed similar atrocities and the world was silent. He said, so more than 350 people had been killed this week in clashes between Druze and Bedouin fighters in Syria. According to the Monitor, 189 of those are regime troops officials, while another 79 Druze fighters, 55 among civilians, 27 summary executions. The Divine Commandment.
Way higher, by the way.
Yeah, probably much higher by now. This is also like a day old or so. The Divine Commandment, do not stand idly by the blood of your fellow, obligates us to raise a cry and stir the conscience of the entire world. Ber writes, quoting Leviticus, and describes the violence against the Jews as ethnic cleansing. We must also remember that some members of this community and their relatives live among us and are bound to us in a covenant of blood, forged in shared sacrifice for the existence of the state of Israel. He's talking about the Jews. Very, very nice.
You know something interesting about genocide attempts in the Middle East? In the last 2 years, I think there was 4 genocide attempts in the Middle East. And all 4 of them were stopped by Israel, not started by Israel. Hamas tried to genocide the Jews. It was stopped. If they could, they would. Israel stopped them. Hezbollah had a plan to genocide the Jews. Israel stopped them. Iran had a plan to nuke the Jews and genocide them. Israel stopped them. And now Syria regime, Jawlani is trying to genocide the Druze, and Israel is working on stopping him. So the only actual 4 kind of attempts or real clear intentions and almost kind of starting it were done by Muslims in the Middle East, and all 4 of them were foiled by Israel. But then again, the media keeps saying that Israel is the one that is doing a genocide and not mentioning any of these ones that actually want to do a genocide.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Oh, somebody just asked if you spoke Hebrew because you said, I think, light to the nations in Hebrew. But you obviously speak Hebrew, right?
Yeah, I'm an Israeli. I was born and raised in Israel.
Yeah, so.
Sometimes I find myself counting in my head in Hebrew. And I'm like, wait a second, do I speak Arabic or Hebrew? Or
So you speak Arabic and Hebrew both?
Arabic and Hebrew and English, and learning German.
Nice. You can learn German from me. I speak German. Oh.
Really? Oh my God, it's such a difficult language.
It is.
I know how to say Schluppi and Winke Winke. Little kids' language, Winke Winke, Schluppi.
Leonardo said, Ridwan Habibi, your Turning Point USA speech made my day. Your humor and genuineness showed. I hope everyone will see who the real enemy is in this time. Thank you. Thank you, Leonardo. I appreciate that. I really liked giving that speech, and I hope it reaches lots of people. Muslims, 1.5 billion plus people, 50 plus countries, historically current oppressors, enslavers, genociders of others. Leftists, Muslims are a persecuted minority.
It's so true. So bizarre that it's actually, people believe that.
Kemalos, during the Lebanese civil war, the Jews of Lebanon under the Jumblats were allied with the Islamists, the PLO, and against the Maronites and Israel. I think in Lebanon, some things got a little bit. I also saw some Lebanese Jews authorities over the last few years speak against Israel and against the Druze inside Israel and all that. So
It's
there seems to be a
Jumblatt
little,
people. Yeah.
there seems to be a little bit of a thing here, disconnect
The
or something.
Jumblatt people have, aligned their, future with communist and jihadist ideas, and many of them are full on, basically jihadist even. It's just very sad to see it, but you can also see now a lot of the Druze in Syria are very upset at them because they're not saying a word.
Mm-hmm.
They would rather see their brothers get slaughtered rather than come and say thank you, Israel, or even point out that Islamists are doing something wrong. So not all. There is people standing, but yeah, there's a big problem with the Lebanese Druze community. Kind of a bit of
Jumblatt has issued a condemnation of Israeli interference. What the heck?
yeah, what an idiot. The only one is trying to save your brothers and you issued a condemnation. That shows you how polluted your brain is with hate towards Israel. Anti-Semitism is a disease, man. Some people who get, infected with this virus, they behave really nasty and weird. Really nasty, against all logic.
That's so messed up. Your fellow people are getting massacred. Israel
October 7th.
jumps in to save them, and you then speak against Israel here.
Yeah, October 7 of your people, and the only one coming to save them, you speak against them. That shows you how crazy they are.
Messed up. Thank you for the super sticker. God used evil Assyria to punish the Jews, says Mark Vendy. Now he's using Muslims to punish the Christ-denying Jews and Jews. Who are we to stop this punishment? Mark Vendy, you really need to brush up on your rhetoric here. It doesn't work. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, man. It's pretty bad. Because I wonder how you explain the suffering that Christians are undergoing right now in these in the Middle East.
No, but just to think that that God will want a little baby or a little 4 years old, 5 years old to see his mother raped in front of her eyes and then beheaded, and then that kid gets kidnapped and become a sex slave and tossed between ISIS fighters, between truck to truck, and becomes pregnant like 4 times until she's 18 and suffer a terrible fate. And you to think that God wants that because he wants to punish the Jews. That just shows how detached someone can come and just say that. It's such a vile thing.
You have to be really sick and really messed up to leave a comment like that. Seriously, show yourself out and never show yourself here again, whoever you were. No avoid from Israel annexing the Druze Syrian, says Paul. Rebecca, what's up, Rebecca?
Rebecca!
Shout out to Rebecca. Rebecca is actually the one who put us both in contact, I think.
She did. Yeah, she did. She put me in contact with a lot of people, Rebecca. Rebecca helped me out during the night of the massacre of the Druze. I went and did a live, and I ended up doing it for 4 hours because I was giving live updates. And Rebecca stayed with me for the entire 4 hours. And whenever I just teared or had to go aside for a second, she was, talking and keeping. And I was just forever be grateful for that. For what Rebecca did. She showed that she's a true sister.
Rebecca is awesome. She does a lot, and it's very, very much appreciated. Very, very much. David, what are you doing here, man? You're not supposed to be here. You're traveling. David says David Wood looks different with a hat. So, yeah. So David is the one that I usually go live with on my channel. David Wood. But he says
that highlight. Okay, fair enough. I see.
Yeah, he's acting as if you were David.
Good name.
Yeah, David said I was wanting to go live last night with David, everybody, but David said that he has some, I don't know, he gave me some excuses like I have to be here, I have to be there, something like that, and yeah, couldn't do it. Always with these excuses, man.
Humans.
Monkey made a super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hyperactive brother, your voice matters. You risk more than we can imagine, and we'll never forget that. You're part of our story now. Thank you. You're not just brave, you're righteous. I think he's talking to you, Mansoor.
Oh, Well, thank you. If you're talking to me, then thank you so much. I'm simply trying to be right now. The real brave people in this story right now are the young men and women and the elderly, the people in Sweden, Druze and
Yeah.
Christians that are simply trying to survive and choosing to not bend the knee to Sharia. That's something admirable. It's probably maybe not the smartest thing to do if you want to survive, especially if the world was not going to step in. You might end up dying. But they're saying, and many Jews and Christians are saying, we will not bend the knee to this evil religion and we're going to stay here. And if we need to die with our heads up high, we'll do that. And we don't have a lot of these people nowadays that are willing to fight until the end for principles. You know, a lot of us are living today in the world that we have thanks to people like that in the past that did not give up. And, you know, we should really respect them. But thank you so much, Hyperactive 94. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Hyperactive. I saw your other comment as well. I appreciate it. Meredith Grotti, Ibrahim's sword and scimitar was enlightening. Christians have a short memory concerning our history, like West is playing checkers while Islam chess. I mean, it's just by choice, you know. It's like Western people are basically blinding themselves. They are taking the chessboard and hitting themselves in the head with it and holding it in front of their faces so that they can't really see what's happening. That's what the Western world is doing. It's really messed up. Like I have said many times now, despite all the bad things that happened in the past, I have always had great admiration for the Crusaders, for example, and how they fought, how they interfered when the rhetoric also was, for example, when the first crusade was called, the part of the main narrative was, despite the fact that we are divided with our Eastern Christian brothers, they need our help right now. The Muslims are treating them horribly and they are insulting them. They are destroying our holy places and this and that. We have to go in and put an end to this. That was the mentality. When Muslims were invading, when the Islamists were invading, the Europeans pushed back. The Eastern Christians pushed back as much as they could until they were defeated and destroyed. The Western Christians, Western Europe, the European Christians pushed back with such might, with such brutality, which is how they managed to survive and kick them back out when they wanted to come and overrun the last strongholds and turn Europe into Islam, into their goat farm. So I have so much respect for what the Christians historically did. And then suddenly, after 1,400 years of fighting back and defending against repeated attacks, everything is forgotten by complete stupidity. And suddenly we are allowing so many to simply come in and we treat them like poor little victims who just need our help. And we're saying Islam is a religion of peace. What the hell is wrong with you?
They'll be rolling in the graves. After all of this time, suddenly you have Greta Thunberg, you know? Think about some of our Viking ancestors are saying, like, what the F? She's not my bloodline.
Very, very bad.
Suicidal.
People need to be aware of what Islam is. People need to be aware of how Islam operates, how Islam is. There simply is no peace possible with it. Avoid it, fight it, reject it. MT, yep, yesterday I saw a video of them actually using scissors and cutting chunks of the man's top lip, not just taking off his beard.
Yeah. There's a lot of horrific images coming now and just not shown in Western media, or really, really ignored, like radio silence almost.
Carson to mention, what about the Jews in Lebanon who have allied themselves with Hezbollah? The Jews, we just talked about them very much. So the Jews are not monolithic. It's not about Jews just going with whatever is strong. It's about the Jews having a certain, the Jews in Lebanon having adopted a certain ideology, or many of the Jews having adopted a certain ideology. It's not about just being with wherever you are. If that was the case, if the Jews were just aligning themselves with whoever is the strong one, the Jews in Syria right now wouldn't be fighting with the Islamists.
I would even say the Jews in Israel would have not aligned themselves with the Jews when they came forward, when they came, you know, in the beginning of this country. Because when the Jews, my grandfather, I remember that story very well. He told me that when he was there before the founding of this nation, when the Arabs came, and said, we're going to come and kill them all just right after the independence. And they gave a memo to all the Arabs, Muslims, and Druze, everyone. They had the same memo. Get out of this country. All the nations are coming. We're going to slaughter all the Jews, river to the sea. And then come back after 2 weeks. You can take their house, and et cetera, et cetera. So the Muslims said yes, went out.
Nakba.
And the Druze said, no, we're going to stand and fight with them. Now, from every logical perspective at that moment, that's the dumbest thing you can do.
Yep.
All the Arab nations are coming to destroy this new young nation that barely have anything, just started out of scratch. And the Druze chose, we're going to stand with them because they realize that this is the only partner that they have here. And they realize that the Jews will treat us well and we can live together. And with the Muslims here, we will never live at peace. So they chose to actually take that risk and go with the losing side. And hence, until today, they're the luckiest Arabs in the Middle East because they live under the Jewish state. So I think that's a very important thing to remind people. They don't always go with the winning force. And just like, AP said here, in Syria, they're undoubtedly not going with the winning force. They're actually going against all other 60 tribes that came and descended on the mountain of Sueda to go and destroy it. They're literally minority against the entire country.
Yeah. Shahaf Sheikh says, I dream of a state from Sueda to Lebanon included with no Muslims where Jews, Christians, and all minorities in the Middle East can seek shelter and live in peace. Just from my observation as an outsider, I would say that that would be a very difficult thing to do because there are lots of disagreements in Lebanon here. So, but it's a nice dream.
Yeah.
Leonardo, I would like to declare myself fit in Mossab voice to be, if she's single, the husband of Rebecca Barsev. Yeah, go do it then. Talk to her.
The same Mossab voice, like Mossab Hassan voice.
Yeah, Mossab Hassan Yusuf voice.
I love that guy.
Because
I love when he talks to Western feminists or liberals, like because they get to taste a real Middle Eastern, like intense, super, like looking at them in the eyes, and he just calls them out. You're not even a woman, and I was just cracking up.
You're repeating like a parrot the propaganda. Yeah. What Palestine? There is no Palestine. I am Palestine.
Yeah, I am Palestine. I am the children of Palestine. He's just intense in their eyes, and I'm just like, "Welcome to the Middle East, guys! Finally, someone is telling
you." Sit down and listen. Sit down.
Let me tell you, you silly idiot! You don't know nothing about the Middle East. It's like, wow, I love this guy. I saw you done a podcast with him.
Yeah, I did. It was very, very, very good to meet him in person. But it's like he has very intense moments in the middle of a conversation when he's like, I was asking him because there was a guy who came up to him in New York and started shouting at him like, you genocide supporter, genocidal. And Mossab doesn't do anything. He just walks without responding. And the video was a very short one. But he told me during the interview, he said that this guy who was harassing him actually walked behind him and filmed for like an hour or so. And I was like, what? For an hour? Was he really there for an hour? And then Mossab says to me, Mossab looks at me in a very serious face and says, do I need to repeat myself? I genuinely felt like, okay, I don't want to ask him anything else. Like,
yeah, don't push him. Don't push him. I mean, the guy had some crazy life.
It's very, very, very intimidating.
It's actually funny because me and him served kind of in the same time. Like I was a little bit after him, but still in the same time. I was in the Israeli side in the special forces, and he was already working for the Shabak.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we never met, yeah. But a lot of the things that he recall and talk about from that times, I remember it very, very vividly from the Israeli side. So I was really, really touched by his story, and everything that when he came to Christ through that thing, and it's a crazy story.
Yeah, he's a hero, and he did a lot of good things for people. Lots of people don't even know that he saved their lives, as one of the people who employed him later on said. So very, very noble. Very noble.
Imagine how hard it is for someone like him to know that he sacrificed so much, lost his entire family, risked his life to save so many people's lives, and then he comes out to the West, which is basically a lot of the lives that he saved, and he sees so much lack of appreciation, and it messes you up because when you're in that bubble, you're thinking like, when I would go there finally, I'll come to a good place and appreciate me. That I think that's what many ex-Muslims or peaceful Muslims that escape the Middle East and get to Europe finally. And they're thinking like all the time, when you grow in the village or in a Muslim culture, a lot of time you feel so oppressed. You can't say what you think. You can't express your emotions, feeling. You can really like risk your life for that. And you hate that oppressive culture because you feel like you're an outside of the box person. You
Mhm.
think differently and you feel like you're smarter than most people around you and no one appreciates you, and you're living in a society where only the dumb succeed and the smart ones get oppressed. And then you say in Europe is different, in Germany is different, and you met someone from there and you read, and then you reach there and you start telling them how bad where you came from, and they start calling you an Islamophobe and they start shaming you, and then you realize you are hated now.
Yeah.
And like that plays with you. I've seen so many people get depressed when
Yeah.
they
I
say
heard it from lots of people. I mean, that's unfortunately the realities of our time. It's really, really weird.
yeah.
BT2 says future stream on the Crusades. I mean, I've talked about it so many times on my channel in different live streams. Maybe at some point I would explore it with somebody who wants to talk about the history of the Crusades. But it's a very complicated thing because as I always say that fundamentally the idea behind the Crusades and the motivation was a good one. It was a noble one. It was totally necessary. But in practice, it also resulted in some really unpleasant and some really bad things, because in theory the idea was good, but then when you go into the Middle East, when you fight in a noble fight as just a collective of numerous different independent forces coming together and fighting on behalf of the Pope, for example, people start just doing their own stuff and messing things up. So the first crusade, the second crusade, the third crusade, by the third and the fourth, it got really, really messed up already. So there is a lot of nuance to it. There are lots of bad things happened, but lots of good things were the main goal of it. So it's like you always have to be careful with it. I would say it was the one aspect of it, which is to fight back against the Muslims and to liberate the Christians under Muslim rule, was a very noble cause. That said, there were lots of things part of the crusade that were not noble at all. So, unfortunately. PC, AP, I love your channel. I watch you and David all the time. Thank you. Good to see you here. Good to see you here. All right, and I gotta go. Mansoor, anything else you want to? By the way, Mansoor is, as he explained, you can find him here on YouTube. I also put a link to his channel, or I tagged him in the description. So everybody, if you want more from him, check out the description, and you can directly find a link to his channel where he's doing good stuff. And I really enjoyed this stream. Anything else you want to say, Mansoor, to everyone?
The pleasure was mine, man, and I very much enjoyed talking to you. You're a very clever guy, and you know your shit. So it's fun to talk to someone like that. It's refreshing to talk to someone and understand these things. But if I may just to say the last few words here before is, please don't forget the people in Syria right now. They are going a horrific time, and anyone here that will take some time and just share videos like that, share, even if it's horrific images, it's sad to say that, but mainstream media is not covering it. And we are witnessing a genocide of a small, beautiful religion that is not represented. They don't have a country to protect them, and they're alone. And the only one that is standing for them is Israel. But Israel, people love to hate Israel. So it's quite hard for Israel to do that. So we need the help of everyone out there to share that story, share the story of the Christians that are being persecuted in Syria, and just really, hopefully, we can bring enough awareness for politicians and mainstream media to start covering it. and start to make things happen. And also, if you can remember in prayers, there's a lot of dear people there that I know that are fighting right now for their lives. And I really hope that they will stay alive.
I agree with every single word of that. And gosh, why did you share this with me? Yeah, Black Angel just shared a video. The hell, a video where they are forcing people to jump off the balcony.
In Syria.
Yeah, civilians, all that. So pray for them, remember them, share their stories. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. I might be live again later today, or maybe not, but definitely tomorrow. But thank you so much, Mansour, for joining me. This was a great pleasure. I loved it, and we should talk again in the future.
Definitely. I'm always available for you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you, everybody. And have a good day. And as one of my friends usually says,
stay away from Islam.
Asking the impossible. The Big Bang is often described as the beginning of everything, of space, time, matter, and energy. It is the cosmic drumbeat that launched the universe we see today. Yet even as we trace the galaxies racing apart, the background radiation still humming from those early moments, and the abundance of hydrogen and helium forged in the fires of the first seconds, a deeper question lingers. What came before? At first glance, it seems
there is a hell on earth today. Its name is Northern Gaza.
We are asking all the civilians in Gaza City to go south of Gaza.
Israeli airstrikes have struck Gaza's biggest hospital.
Israel has this evening said it struck an ambulance in Gaza City.
خلال الدقائق القادمة سيتم اقتحام ودخول مجمع الشفاء الطبي.
On the 7th of October 2023, the military wing of Hamas led an incursion into southern Israel. It attacked military targets and civilians. Approximately 1,139 Israelis and foreign nationals were killed, some in a counterattack by their own army. Israel responded to the surprise attack immediately with widespread heavy bombing of Gaza. By May 2024, more than 35,000 Palestinians had been killed and nearly 80,000 injured. Thousands more remain buried under the rubble. In its stated aim of destroying Hamas militarily, Israeli forces have gone further than ever before in killing civilians, but also targeting UN facilities and Gaza's schools and hospitals. These are normally immune from attack under international humanitarian law, but not in this war.
Complete breakdown of public order and increased pressure for mass displacement.
تهجير السكان قسريا من شمال ووسط القطاع إلى الجنوب.
مشهد يسجله التاريخ بنكبة 2023.
In this film, we look at Israeli military strategy in the current war in the context of previous conflicts, going back to what Palestinians call al-Nakba. More than 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from their homes and land when Israel was founded in May 1948. In the following 8 decades, Israel's political and military strategy has been built on expansion at the expense of the Palestinian population.
يعني هناك عدد من المجازر التي وقعت في فلسطين عام 48 حيث كانت تتم عملية تجميع شباب القرية بشكل خاص ويتم إطلاق النار عليهم، وبالتالي هذا كان يدب الفزع في نفوس المواطنين والهرب في منطقة توفر لهم الحماية. طبعا كان في هناك استهداف للمستشفيات، كان في هناك استهداف للمستوصفات والعيادات الطبية لعدد من الأطباء. الاستراتيجية كانت أنهم كانوا يغلقون أو يسدون منافذ القرية سوى منفذ واحد.
According to contemporary reports, as many as 530 Palestinian towns and villages were destroyed leading up to May 1948 by Zionist paramilitary groups like the Haganah and the Irgun. There were massacres in which an estimated 13,000 Palestinians were killed and hundreds of thousands more expelled. Behind this lay an expansionist strategy aimed at pushing Palestinians out of cities, towns, and villages to limit their presence in the new Israel as much as possible.
اعتمدت الخطط الصهيونية على تنفيذ عدد كبير من المجازر قد لا يكون في كل القرى، ولكن يكفي أن تحدث مجزرة في قرية ما وتنتشر الأخبار منها إلى قرى ثانية. كانت تقوم بتعميم أوامر وتعليمات، كانت الطائرات تلقي منشورات كما يحدث اليوم، وهذه المنشورات كانت تدعو الجماهير إلى المغادرة. اللافت للانتباه أنه دعوات إلى الانتقال من مكان إلى مكان والتجمع في مكان محدد بادعاء أنه أكثر أمناً وأماناً. الأمر الآخر هو خلق مناطق فارغة وعازلة.
The ground offensives by militias were supported by airstrikes, generating an overall sense of panic among the urban and rural Palestinian population.
استعملت الطائرات مثلا في قصف قريتي ترشيحة وسحماتة في الجليل، مما أدى إلى هدم عدد من المنازل وقتل عدد من المواطنين ودفع البقية منهم إلى الرحيل.
بال48 كان التمثيل بالجثث خاصة بدير ياسين وبالطنطورة وبكل المجازر جزء أساسي من الهدف من وراء المجزرة. المجزرة السرية غير ناجحة، لازم يكون المجزرة علنية واستعراضية.
Not surprisingly, there seemed to be a direct link between the Haganah and Irgun attacks and the immediate displacement of large numbers of Palestinians. When the new state of Israel was announced on the 15th of May 1948, these groups merged and formed the Israeli army. The new army continued with the same expansionist strategy typified by the major territorial gains it made in the June 1967 war. Israel appears to have adopted a similar strategy of displacement in the current war on Gaza, but this time the numbers of civilians killed has been far greater even than those in 1948, as have the numbers of those internally displaced within the Gaza Strip. What's more, the bombing of residential areas has forced people to seek refuge in places normally immune from military attack, like schools and hospitals, only for them to find that these have become major targets by Israeli forces in the conflict.
هاي الحرب الهدف الأساسي منها إخلاء قطاع غزة من سكان. يعني هذه الحرب هي الحرب ال48 الجزء الثاني. استراتيجية استهداف القطاع الصحي مش استراتيجية جانبية، هي استراتيجية أساسية بالحرب.
Hospitals in northern Gaza are again out of service.
We are seeing a complete collapse of the higher level infrastructure of the Gaza system.
إذا سقط هذا المستشفى فإن كل المنظومة الصحية ستكون عاجزة تماما.
رأينا منذ بدء العدوان الإسرائيلي على غزة أن الاستراتيجية الإسرائيلية الأساسية هي لتهجير أكبر عدد ممكن من سكان غزة إلى خارج القطاع والسيطرة عليه.
Attention, citizens of Gaza, listen carefully. This is an urgent military advisory from the Israel Defense Forces. We urge all residents of northern Gaza and Gaza City to temporarily relocate south.
6 days after the start of the war, the Israeli army spokesman told residents in the north of Gaza to move south. They were supposed to do this along what it called a safe corridor, the main highway in the Gaza Strip, Salah ad-Din Street, which runs the 45-kilometer length of the Strip. The army also dropped leaflets ordering people to evacuate the north. The Israeli Air Force then intensified its bombing of residential areas of the northern Gaza Strip and Gaza City.
Since Israel began its bombing campaign in Gaza in October, we have seen really a very high number of attacks on medical facilities, medical transport, and medical workers. This started really in the early days of their campaign in Gaza and has included shelling on medical facilities, rocket fire, airstrikes, really any range of weapons impacting medical facilities.
The Gaza Strip's general director of hospitals and medical staff at hospitals in the north got phone calls from the Israeli army ordering them to evacuate and threatening to bomb the hospitals.
يعني تقريبا قبل ساعة تلقيت اتصال هاتفي من رقم مجهول وعرف عن نفسه أنه جيش الدفاع الإسرائيلي فقال لي اخلي المستشفى الآن.
يعني هي حدثت الساعة 2:30 ليلة. اتصل قال أنا ضابط من الجيش الإسرائيلي وأنت الدكتور محمد زقوت مدير المستشفيات. قلت له نعم. فقال أنا أطلب منك إخلاء جميع مستشفيات غزة وشمال غزة إلى منطقة الجنوب. قلت له كيف يتم ذلك؟ قال هذا أمر من الجيش الإسرائيلي. قلت له أنت تتحدث عن أعداد كبيرة من المرضى وأعداد كبيرة من الأسرة وخدمات كبيرة، العناية المركزة والعمليات ومستشفيات ولادة ومستشفيات أطفال ومستشفى عيون. قال هذا لا يعنيني، أنا أقول لك أمر من الجيش وأنت مسؤول عن ذلك وأنهى المقابلة.
We have been pretty much horrified by the fact that there have been like a full evacuation order for the hospitals in the north of the Gaza Strip. And in many of instances, full evacuation order is like a death sentence for the people.
التهديد اللي وصل لمستشفى القدس بيقول انه على الموجودين في المكان انهم يخلوا المكان لانه ممكن قوات الاحتلال انها تضرب المبنى باللي فيه باللاجئين اللي فيه. هدول لاجئين تركوا بيوتهم هربا من قذائف الاحتلال، نساء، اطفال، شيوخ، مرضى، معاقين، ذوي الاحتياجات الخاصة، كله موجود في المبنى هذا طبعا هربا من صواريخ الاحتلال.
There are numerous indications right now that this is an intent, and that comes from announcements to evacuate medical facilities followed by strikes on those facilities, coupled with broader calls for evacuation of entire areas. This can indicate that it is a strategy to result in forced displacement. civilians are required to be protected from attacks. In addition to the broad protections afforded to civilians, medical facilities and medical transport and medical workers receive heightened additional protections. And yet, we are seeing Israeli forces apparently systematically target medical facilities, medical personnel, and medical workers across Gaza. To be clear, this is a strategy that has been used in other conflicts, notably in Syria. So this is not a new tactic of war, but to be clear, it is an unlawful tactic of war and may amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity.
The mounting problem was that as the bombing intensified, increasing numbers of local residents sought refuge in medical facilities.
طبعا النازحين كان تحدي كبير بالنسبة لنا، والناس بالمناسبة يعني هم مجبرين على أن ينزحوا من مناطقهم. الكثير منهم بيوتهم قد قصفت، وأنتم تعلمون أنه أحيانا يتوصل الضرب ويصل إلى 300 طلعة طيارة في الليلة الواحدة، وبالتالي أصبحوا يجدون في المستشفى المكان الأكثر أمانا لأنه في ازدحام ومتوفر فيه شيء من الكهرباء، لأنه في النهاية أنت تتحدث عن خدمات موجودة.
المستشفيات عادة يكون هناك إمدادات من المواد الغذائية والماء الصالح للشرب، بالإضافة إلى العلاجات.
The sheltering of civilians in the hospital was important to keep people in the north of Gaza close to their homes. Even if their homes and their villages were attacked, they could feel safe, they thought, in the hospitals.
الناس لما لجأت للمستشفيات بالذات الأندونيسية كلها هي تدمرت بيوتها، ما فيش لهم بيوت، لا مكان يقعدوا، مش مكان آمن، ما لهم بيوت ولا لهم مأوى ولا عندهم فراش، كلها راحت بعفشهم بحالهم بأكلهم بشربهم، اضطروا يرجعوا للمستشفيات اللي تحميهم.
أنا من اللي فلتوا بيوتهم في السجاعية، لأنه السجاعية كلها أغلبيتها تدمرت، ما فلتناش بيوتنا بكيفنا من الدمار والقصف العنيف اللي كان يقصف فيها السجاعية اللي هو الاحتلال الصهيوني. وإجينا التجأنا لمكان هذا، قلنا هذه مستشفى دولية معروفة تحت إمرة الاتحاد الأوروبي، مستشفى آمن، مستشفى صليب أحمر معلقين راياتهم على إنه صليب تحت رعاية الصليب الأحمر. إجينا والتجأنا أنا ونسوان إخوتي وأخوتي.
In every hospitals where we work in the Gaza Strip, especially Shifa Hospital, Al-Aqsa Hospital, Nasser Hospital, all of them, we've seen them turned in IDP camps. And the reason is, again, that the people are coming to the hospitals because they are seeking for safety. And when you target those hospitals, people have to move.
Gaza's hospitals have been built at key points in the Strip to offer the greatest access. The biggest is Al-Shifa Hospital, and its large medical complex is at a major intersection in Al-Rimal neighborhood. This was once the very heart of Gaza City, its upmarket neighborhood with over 750,000 residents. The hospital covers an area of 45,000 square meters and is at a strategic location linking the port of Gaza to the center of the city.
يعني هذه المستشفيات هي داخل المناطق السكنية. عندما تتحدث عن أكبر مجمعين طبيين الشفاء وناصر، الشفاء يعني بجانب مخيم الشاطئ وناصر داخل مخيم خان يونس.
The Indonesian hospital, on the other hand, is in northern Gaza, midway between the three main and most densely populated cities in the north, Beit Lahia, Jabalia, and Beit Hamoum.
We want the hospitals to be evacuated. We already created a humanitarian corridor to create a safe way for the patients to go out.
מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נהגים בהתאם.
The Israeli army delivered on Yoav Galan's promise and cut off all food, water, electricity, and medical supplies to Gaza. But at the same time as having no supplies, hospitals became overcrowded with injured and displaced people seeking refuge. Meanwhile, the heavy Israeli bombing continued, meaning that many displaced Gazans were forced to look elsewhere for shelter.
It has been the strangulation of the hospitals by no food, no water, no electricity, no food, and no medical supplies. So there has been a variety of attacks on the healthcare system. And it's important to remember because not only being in the hospitals, but also primary healthcare, which is of course fascinating for the population of
استهداف المتدرج للنازحين اولا وبعدين للقطاع الصحي، يعني في خطين متوازيين، واحد لاجبار النازحين داخل المستشفيات للنزوح للجنوب، والجزء الثاني لاجبار الجرحى وعوائل الجرحى للنزوح الى الجنوب عن طريق تدمير القطاع الصحي.
Israeli forces continued to bomb residential areas close to hospitals, particularly in the northern Gaza Strip. Residents fled their homes and sheltered in the hospitals. Israeli forces then started bombing and shelling residential buildings near smaller hospitals, forcing them out of service.
عسكرياً يبدأ القصف محيط المستشفيات، باحات المستشفيات قبل الوصول إلى مبنى المستشفى بحد ذاته.
Satellite images show that the bombardment caused serious damage to buildings and facilities up to a radius of 180 meters from all 28 hospitals in Gaza.
الاحتلال الإسرائيلي قام باستهداف مركز للأحياء السكنية التي تسقط فيها المستشفيات. قبل قليل تم خروج مستشفى بيت حنون عن الخدمة بالكامل نتيجة قصف واستهداف محيط هذا المستشفى وتضرر المستشفى بشكل مباشر مما ألحق
During this whole period, the Israeli army said that it was not deliberately targeting hospitals.
We don't strike hospitals, and that's why we'll target hospitals, okay? We don't target hospitals.
Within 2 days of the start of the war, by the 9th of October 2023, Beit Hanun Hospital in the north was so badly damaged it ceased to function. El Durra Hospital was next, and then other small hospitals and health centers in northern Gaza were gradually forced out of service one after another. This partial collapse of the health system drove yet more people from the north. They took refuge in the bigger hospitals, but they were now operating at much lower capacity.
العديد منها وأخرجها عن الخدمة جميعها، وفي هناك عدة أمثلة منها مستشفى الدولي للعيون قصفوا تماما وأزالوا عن وجه الأرض، ومستشفى سان جون ومستشفى الخدمة العامة والعديد من المستشفيات. أذكر على سبيل المثال مستشفى مهدي للولادة كان فيه العشرات بل المئات من النازحين، وكان يظن الأهالي هناك والعاملين فيه أنه مكان آمن، لأنه إذا بادعاءات الاحتلال أن هناك عمل عسكري في المستشفيات الكبيرة، فمن غير المعقول أساساً أن يوجد أي شك أن هناك عمل عسكري في مستشفى صغير مثل مستشفى مهدي للولادة، ورغم ذلك استهدف الاحتلال هذا المستشفى.
The Israeli bombing then crept closer and closer to buildings surrounding the big hospitals in the north. A Palestinian Red Crescent official said that some airstrikes landed only 20 meters away from the hospitals themselves. The bombing also destroyed roads around hospitals, which affected the movement of the injured and ambulances trying to reach them.
احنا تفاجأنا من هذا الاستهداف المباشر، يعني انت تتحدث عن مستشفى مثل الاندونيسي تم استهداف الساحة مباشرة بصاروخ كبير وتم تصوير ذلك، وانا كنت متواجد في المستشفى ويعني كان في خطر على حياتنا مباشر. مستشفى ناصر أيضا كان في استهداف لسيارة إسعاف داخل المستشفى والعديد من الاستهدافات لسيارات الإسعاف، وبعد ذلك توالت سلسلة الاعتداءات على المستشفيات.
تعرض سيارات إسعاف تابعة للهلال الأحمر الفلسطيني للقصف قرب أبراج الندى شمالي قطاع غزة واستشهاد 3 من طواقمها.
كان يتم هنالك قصف للطرق التي تؤدي للمستشفيات، وذلك لمنع النازحين من القدوم عبر هذه الطرق إلى المستشفيات والمراكز الصحية، لعزل المراكز الطبية والمستشفيات. وهذه العملية جميعها تتمحور حول دفعهم إلى التوجه باتجاه واحد، الجنوب فقط.
المسيرات الكوادكوبتر الإسرائيلية كانوا بيطلقوا النار على أي مريض أو أي عائلة مريض عم بيحاولوا يوصلوا لمستشفى مستشفى المعمداني. يعني وصلنا بالمعمداني بيوم واحد 20 جريح تم إطلاق النار عليهم هن وعم بيحاولوا يوصلوا للمستشفى. المستشفى الميداني الأردني تم محاصرته ومنع وصول الجرحى له بنفس الطريقة، عن طريق الاستهداف، استهداف سيارات الإسعاف مباشرة، باستهداف المباشر بقصفهم.
The Geneva Convention set international legal standards defining basic human rights during wartime for prisoners, civilians, and the military. They include protection for the wounded and the sick and for civilians in and around war zones. Article 18 states civilian hospitals organized to give care to the wounded and sick, the infirm and maternity cases, may in no circumstances be the object of attack, but shall at all times be respected and protected by the parties to the conflict. Israel ratified the conventions in 1951. But in the war on Gaza, the early signs were that it would not observe international humanitarian law.
Israeli airstrike hit a hospital in Gaza a short time ago.
It's the Al Ali hospital.
300 people were killed after a strike on a hospital.
A huge explosion hit Al Ahli Hospital in Gaza City on the 17th of October 2023 and killed nearly 500 Palestinians. Many were sheltering from the bombing. Palestinian officials blamed Israel for the bombing, while Tel Aviv held armed groups based in Gaza responsible. A research group based in London, Forensic Architecture, later published analysis saying that the trajectory of the missile suggested it was a guided Israeli interceptor rather than a local Palestinian rocket. Independent investigations by the New York Times and the Washington Post corroborated this.
In the evening, after we finished one of the surgeries, we heard a missile screech following by a huge explosion.
أذكر الدكتور ماهر عياد المدير الطبي لمستشفى المعمداني أخبرني إنه حتى أخبرني يوم المجزرة إنه هو تلقى اتصال تهديد من الجيش الإسرائيلي للإخلاء. إسرائيل اختارت أكثر مستشفى لها علاقات خارجية، مستشفى المعمداني الأهلي تدير الكنيسة الإنجيلية في بريطانيا، تم استهدافه بطريقة مباشرة.
مستشفى المعمداني تم استهدافه بقنبلة الأمكي تحدث يعني نسبة تدمير عالية، نسبة عاصف وتشظية ضمن المنطقة ونسبة قتل. عندما تقوم قوة عسكرية بإلقاء قنبلة لا يستطيع الطيار أن يقوم بهذه العملية إلا أن يكون هناك إيجاز ما قبل الرحلة ويكون هذا الهدف محدد له من قبل قيادته الأعلى. هي لم تكن حالة واحدة إنما كانت عدة حالات.
كن جنب الكنيسة بالضبط، نايم على فرشة، سمعت لهواية، اجيت من جنب الكنيسة على الجنينة على طول أشوف أولادي في المنطقة هذه، هي فراشهم، لقيت كل إخوتي واولادي كلهيتهم لقيتهم اللي متصاوب واللي مستشهد الا الولد كان قاعد جنبهم. والولد اللي في صف خامس اللي عمره 12 سنه ما لقيتوش، ولحتى اللحظه هاي الدنيا صارت العصر ابني مش مبين اثره، لا هو شهيد ولا هو جريح. قبل الخبطه بنص ساعه الزنانات ما فلتتش اجواء المعمداني، كانت مركزه بشكل فظيع، اقول لك بشكل فظيع. احنا كنا نتحدث نقول ليش فايعين فوق المعمداني يعني، والكل كان قلقان، بس انه كنا مطمئنين انه دوله.
واضح بأن الانفجار كان حجمه كبير جدا، واضح بأن الاستهداف جرى بصواريخ موجهة باتجاه هذا المستشفى تحديدا.
There have been attacks on facilities using precise weaponry. And when you have a precise weapon that is capable of being targeted with precision, launched by a military with quite advanced targeting practices and training, that tends to suggest that the hospital itself is being targeted.
Survivors of the Al-Ahli hospital attack tried to seek shelter in Al-Shifa and the Nasser hospitals. But there was also heavy bombing in those areas, and they were forced to move south down Salah ad-Din Street.
قامت من المنطقة الغربية بإقامة أحزمة نارية بالقصف من الطائرات ومن الدبابات. وعندما أذكر الأحزمة النارية هنا لابد أن أشير بأنه يتم استهداف المنطقة التي يراد قصفها بالأحزمة النارية بغارات جوية متتالية وبقصف مدفعي متتالي لساعات متواصلة، بحيث أن تكون درجة الحرارة تزيد ضمن المنطقة عن 1400 درجة مئوية. وبوجود القوات الإسرائيلية من الجهة الشمالية والجهة الشرقية وإقامة الحزام الناري من الجهة الغربية لم يتبقى لهؤلاء المرضى والجرحى والمصابين إلا أن يقوموا بالتوجه جنوبا، وهذا هو كان هدف القوات الإسرائيلية.
אנחנו נערכים לכניסה קרקעית. זהו השלב השני של המלחמה, שמטרותיה ברורות.
The Israeli army began its ground invasion into the north of the Gaza Strip on the 26th of October. Tanks were accompanied by heavy airstrikes near Al-Quds Hospital and other medical facilities in Gaza City. Ambulances carrying the injured couldn't then reach these hospitals, and those sheltering there became trapped inside.
قصف عنيف الآن في محيط مستشفى الإندونيسي.
In the week that followed, the Israeli army attacked areas near the Indonesian hospital, Al-Quds Hospital, the Turkish Al-Sadaqa Hospital, and Al-Wafa Hospital. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said on the 6th of November that 122,000 displaced people were sheltering in Gaza's hospitals. The hospitals in the north still had no fuel, medical supplies, or electricity.
We are certainly seeing parallels happen here, where Israeli forces are systematically targeting and impacting healthcare infrastructure, making medical facilities essentially be forced to cease their operations because they cannot continue providing treatment safely, or they do not have the fuel to continue running generators. And so medical facilities are being forced out of service. That is having disastrous impacts on the civilian population.
It was at this time that the Israeli army began to threaten to attack Al-Shifa hospital. It made the repeated claim that it was the site of a Hamas command center. Both Hamas and the hospital always denied this. A World Health Organization report in December 2023 said that around 50,000 displaced people had taken shelter there at that time.
مجمع الشفاء يقدم خدمات لما يزيد عن 40% من خدمات وزارة الصحة.
Right now, terrorists move freely in Shifa Hospital. and other hospitals in Gaza. We have concrete evidence that hundreds of terrorists flooded into the hospital to hide there. Hamas uses Shifa Hospital as a shield for Hamas terror infrastructure. Hamas wages war from hospitals.
It's widely accepted that Hamas has an extensive tunnel network across Gaza. The Rome Statute, which established the International Criminal Court, makes an exception to a hospital's protected status if it has so-called military objectives, in which case it can be considered a legitimate target. But it also says that if there is any doubt about a hospital being used for military purposes, the presumption must be that it is not.
There is no such thing as a military hospital target in Gaza. I've never seen a soldier inside the hospitals. I've never seen a command center anywhere. I have seen the signs on the doors saying no arms in here, and I, for one, would never have worked there if these hospitals were military.
There didn't seem to be incontrovertible evidence that Al-Shifa was being used for military purposes by Hamas. Nevertheless, Israeli ground troops surrounded the hospital on 13 November, and the Air Force bombed it despite the large numbers of people sheltering there. 2 days later, they raided the hospital.
الآن استهداف جديد في هذه الأوقات، استهداف جديد يتواجد حاليا في مستشفى الشفاء. قصفوا قدام المستشفى وقصفوا في الشوارع المحيطة، فالقصف حرفيا كان مستمر بشكل كبير ليقدروا يخوفوا الناس. دبابات حوطت تقريبا المستشفى في محيط 300 متر. كمان كان يتم قنص أي حد بيتحرك داخل المستشفى قريب من الشبابيك، وكمان تم استهداف المبنى التخصصي بصاروخ مدفعية على أحد الشبابيك، وكان في شهيد وعدة إصابات.
هذا القسم تعرض فجر اليوم إلى قصف مباشر من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي. لا نعلم إن كنا سنتقدم، وإن كان الأمر آمنا بالأصل تقدمنا بعض الشيء، وتقدمت الكاميرا لترصد ما حدث بالضبط داخل هذا القسم.
الاحتلال الإسرائيلي داخل مستشفى الشفاء وحالة الخوف والذعر.
الآن بدأت قضية الدخول البري لمجمع الشفاء الطبي. في هذا اليوم فقدنا ما يقارب نصف الطاقم الطبي، إضافة خرج تقريبا من 50,000 نازح، وتبقى تقريبا 4,000 أو 5,000. هذا كان يوم جمعة. يوم الاثنين فعلا بدأت اللحظات الأولى من الاجتياح البري لمجمع الشفاء الطبي.
What we've seen in Shifa Hospital, where patient was forced to evacuate in dire condition, in terrible condition, was terrible to see, and many of them also couldn't get access to the hospital because of this. The hospital was completely closed.
تم إخلاءنا بالقوة من مجمع الشفاء الطبي. استشهد منا ما يقارب 40 أو 45 طبيب لحتى الآن، هذا ما نعرفه لحتى هذه الدقائق، وقد يكون آخرين هناك. إطلاق نار علينا من جميع الاتجاهات الآن.
الاستهداف الجسدي، التصفية الجسدية، أنا برأيي مدروسة ومنهجية. يعني لما تشوف الأطباء اللي تم استهدافهم بيعملوا بتخصصات كتير مفقودة بقطاع غزة. يعني الدكتور اللوح، طبيب الأمراض الكلى الوحيد بقطاع غزة، دكتور هاني الهيثم الأخصائي الوحيد للطوارئ بقطاع غزة.
We're inside the MRI center of the Shifa Hospital. Israeli troops breached here a few hours ago, and we have cleared the area. What you'll be able to see is military equipment. There is an AK-47. There are cartridges, ammo. There are grenades in here. Is a laptop. We found it in the MRI room. This is how the laptop looks.
However, some international broadcasters cast doubt on the Israeli video evidence.
Nous n'avons à ce jour strictement aucune preuve pour démontrer que l'hôpital Al-Shifa aurait été utilisé comme un centre de commandement ou un centre de camouflage pour la direction du Hamas.
Even after the Israeli occupation army got to Shifa, they could prove nothing. They did not need these allegations to bomb and destroy all the other hospitals in Gaza, which we will come back to, because they have been actually destroying so many hospitals without any claim of being a military target.
عند المصابين كان في المستشفى الأندونيسي. أول ما تحصلنا عبرت الدبابات الجرافات. هدوا سور الأندونيسي قعدوا حوالي 8 ساعات. طبعا السور كلهيته هذا هدوه واقتحموا وضربوا الدور الثالث والدور الثاني العناية وصار 15 شهيد كان في العناية اللي استشهدوا من القصف فوق ما هم متصاوبين. وبعدين دخلوا رجلية. طبعا احنا تحت اطلاق النار ومن وين اللي الخبط جاي ما نعرفش وقالوا لنا كلكم اطلع. طلعنا كلنا رافعين يعني منزلين هيك ايدينا ورؤوسنا بالارض. اخذ الشباب وصوروهم فتشوهم وصاروا عشوائي يطخوا. احنا لما صار اقتحام للمستشفى صاروا ينادوا ويقولوا اطلعوا احنا بلغناكم تطلعوا على الجنوب عشان هناك امن لكن ما فيش امان.
The December Israeli raid was not the only attack on Al-Shifa Hospital. In March 2024, Israeli forces besieged and bombed it again over a 2-week period. The buildings were burned and left in a state of complete devastation. Eyewitnesses said that hundreds of bodies were left lying in the hospital and on nearby streets. A month or so later, health officials discovered 3 mass graves immediately outside Al-Shifa Hospital. But back in the 3rd week of November 2023, the healthcare system in the northern Gaza Strip was already on its knees, and the health ministry declared its complete collapse.
كما أن الاحتلال الإسرائيلي تعمد تدمير مستشفيات شمال قطاع غزة وترك 800,000 نسمة في هذه المنطقة الحساسة بلا خدمات صحية.
It was such systematic that the destruction was not about one hospital or 2 hospitals, but the destruction of the health system as a whole. The entire health system of the north of Gaza was destroyed.
The Israeli soldiers, when they came to Shifa, they started attacking the MRI machines. What is this? How can you attack a hospital equipment which has absolutely no military meaning at all?
Meanwhile, the international community began to argue that Israel's response to the 7th of October Hamas-led attacks was disproportionate. In January 2024, South Africa brought a case before the International Court of Justice arguing that it amounted to genocide.
Génocide par la destruction des conditions d'existence du groupe social. La destruction de l'accès aux points de santé, ce qu'on appelle le droit de la guerre, le droit international humanitaire repose sur un principe qui est la distinction entre les objectifs civils et les objectifs militaires. Et donc, les objectifs civils doivent être protégés. Bon. Et au sein de cette protection, il y a une protection renforcée pour les établissements de santé. C'est-à-dire qu'on j'entends parfois en disant oui, c'est un objectif civil. Non, non, c'est pas qu'un objectif civil, c'est au sein des objectifs civils un objectif renforcé.
Targeting hospitals could be an intent to, convey messages of terror to civilians and suggest that there is no safe place. When you have medical facilities being forced out of service during a conflict, civilians will naturally move to places where they think they have increased chances of getting access to healthcare.
An estimated 1.5 million Palestinian residents moved from the north of the Gaza Strip to the south. Individual waves of displacement seem to have occurred immediately following Israeli attacks on hospitals and their surrounding areas.
Le lien est absolument direct entre le bombardement des hôpitaux et le déplacement des victimes. Mais le nombre de victimes, il est
À deuxième degré, 1,5 million. C'est-à-dire que tout le monde, à commencer par les Israéliens, disent qu'effectivement, il y a 1,5 million de personnes qui ont quitté leur déplacement et qui sont en situation de transfert forcé. Bon, 1,5 million. Je rappelle que la Nakba, c'était 700 000, et 700 000, ça s'était fait en un an. Là, on est sur 1,5 million en quelques jours. C'est-à-dire que c'est d'une violence qui n'a jamais été vue.
So aggressively pursued Al-Quds Hospital, Shifa Hospital, Mustashfa Al-Ahli Arab, the other hospitals in the north. Why? Because the hospitals are military installations? No. But because the hospitals is part of the anchor that keeps the society and the people to a certain village, a city, a place to live.
بالثقافة السياسية الفلسطينية الصحة جزء أساسي من الصمود ومقاومة الاحتلال.
Il n'y a que là que l'on comprend. Et la ligne, c'est la destruction des conditions d'existence. Le ciblage des hôpitaux avec ce côté général et systématique n'est du jamais vu dans aucune guerre.
من بداية العمليات كانت إسرائيل تسعى بأن تقوم بتقطيع هذا القطاع إلى 3 مناطق: المنطقة الشمالية والمنطقة الوسطى والمنطقة الجنوبية. وهنا أود أن أشير بأن اتجاه الحركة الذي كانت تسمح به إسرائيل هو الحركة باتجاه واحد ومنع العودة من الجنوب باتجاه الشمال.
الآن قصف عنيف جدا في الساحة الخلفية لمستشفى شهداء الأقصى. الآن إصابات وشهداء في المستشفى.
Israel continued to state that the south of Gaza would be a safe haven. But these satellite images from late 2023 show tightly packed camps near hospitals in the southern towns of Khan Yunis and Rafah. These were where the estimated 1.5 million people displaced from the north were sheltering. But these were far from being so-called safe zones. The Israeli army stormed Al-Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis in February 2024, and in March, Al-Amal Hospital ceased functioning when troops forced medical staff and patients to evacuate. The Israeli army justified this as part of an operation to locate hostages.
Special forces
them from Israel in the first place. Terrorists that I can now confirm have been hiding and operating the
إسرائيل استعملت عام 48 وفي حرب غزة 2023 أساليب ومنهجيات مشابهة. كانت القوات الإسرائيلية تسدد ضربات إلى النازحين لتدفعهم أكثر وأكثر نحو مناطق خارج حدود فلسطين، وبالتالي تمنع منهم أي إمكانية للعودة.
هدفت إسرائيل احتلال شمال القطاع والسيطرة عليه بشكل تام لكي تقول أنها حققت هدفاً استراتيجياً مهماً وخلقت منطقة عازلة لا يمكن الوصول إلى الأراضي المحتلة الإسرائيلية من هذه المنطقة. إنما حتى الآن رغم احتلال إسرائيل 80% من شمال القطاع إلا أنها لم تسيطر عليه بعد.
During the war on Gaza, the Israeli army has repeatedly denied that it had a policy of deliberately targeting hospitals.
Hamas is hiding behind hospitals. Hamas is sickly exploiting hospitals to disguise its war machine.
When it did attack hospitals like Al-Shifa, it justified it on the basis that it was shielding the so-called Hamas command center. Al Jazeera contacted both the Israeli army and the foreign ministry on 2 occasions, asking them to comment on allegations that it deliberately targeted hospitals, but they did not reply. Hospitals, clinics, and health facilities underpin the social structure of any community, especially during conflict. The collapse of the health system in the Gaza Strip has exacerbated a chronic situation that the UN has called on the world to address.
The people of Gaza are in the midst of an epic humanitarian catastrophe before the eyes of the world. We must not look away.
Many countries in the world have now called for an end to the war in Gaza, and the ICC is seeking arrest warrants for war crimes allegedly committed by civilians. These include Israel's deliberate targeting of civilians in what to many is a disproportionate form of elective punishment.
It's an extremely cynical moment for international law. It's an extremely devastating moment for the Palestinian people. There are rules under international law, and no matter which way you look at this, Israel is in violation of those rules.
As of the 7th of October, there is not one norm of international humanitarian law that has not been violated.
I never imagined in my lifetime I would see a genocide taking place in real time before my eyes. The fact that it is being protected by most Western governments takes it to a level that I just never imagined would be possible.
I come to Israel with a single message. You're not alone. You are not alone.
Canada will always defend Israel and defend its right, including its right to exist.
And Israel has a right to defend itself. In fact, it has the duty to defend itself.
Israel hat das Recht, gegen diese barbarischen Angriffe zu verteidigen, seine Staatsbürger zu schützen und die Angreifer zu verfolgen.
La France reconnaît le droit d'Israël à se défendre et à protéger ses populations.
As your friend, we will stand with you in solidarity, we will stand with your people, and we also want you to win.
If one looks at our political leaders today and all of our mainstream politicians, they are the most mendacious, the most mediocre, the least talented group of politicians that I can remember during my almost 60 years on this earth. It is astonishing just how deeply corrupt materially and morally they are. Because many of them, be it through donations to their political parties, donations to them personally, donations to their organizations like the Labour Friends of Israel, the Conservative Friends of Israel, the Democratic Friends of Israel, the Republican Friends of Israel, and the multiple and myriad other organizations like them, they provide an extremely good living for that person and for those political parties.
Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to having a thorough discussion about where everybody goes from here.
Every day, in the depth and breadth of cooperation.
The West is intimately involved in Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza. For months, we have seen U.S. officials affirm time and again that there are no red lines for Israel, using exactly that language, when of course we know that international law draws many red lines. And yet the U.S. has come out in stark opposition, granting Israel full authority to proceed and to create as much death and destruction as it sees fit.
It's America's battle.
I'm shocked by the lack of action of the international community. I'm shocked by the hands raised by the US ambassador in the Security Council voting against a ceasefire, vetoing a ceasefire. I'm shocked by the lack of action of principled states who need to take, again, a principled, concrete stand against this aberration and start thinking of sanctions.
What we've seen is that the laws of war are used against weaker parties, but if your ally is the United States, and if your ally can veto any Security Council resolution, and if your allies are the European states, then the chances that the ICC will bring you to justice are very, very slim. The International Court of Justice is a court that renders guilty the losers in a conflict. It is a court of the victors and a court that has double standards for the allies of the powerful and for those that it thinks of as its enemies.
The view that South Africa's submission to the International Court of Justice is some sort of anti-Semitic screed and blood libel, this is nonsense that you couldn't make up. And the nonsense that is being enunciated constantly, not just by the Israelis, but that is then parroted by the US government, the UK government, the German government, the French government, etc. And this is being done to defend the indefensible, to defend the slaughter of tens of thousands of innocent civilians, to defend attacks on health facilities, on residential homes, on places of worship, on places of work. We are seeing a genocide taking place in Gaza.
Well, truth of the matter is, if there weren't an Israel, you'd have to invent one. The truth of the matter is that I believe that, as I went home and got in trouble at the time, but it's true. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
It's the international community and its powerful member states, like particularly the US, but in general, Western countries, which is still pilot. And it's evident in the veto power that some member states can exercise within the UN. 3 of those member states are from the West. It tells us something. No African countries has a veto power in the United Nations system. It's the entire system which is not fully representative of where the world is today. But I would like to see this changing.
We need to think of better mechanisms, not only inside the law, but how the law is applied to ensure that there is no double standards. So it's both a changing of the laws so that they address the current circumstances, but also the institutions, the judicial institutions that apply the law so that they don't apply it with double standards.
And we will continue to actively engage in the hard work of direct diplomacy on the ground until we reach a final solution.
The destruction of over 70% of Gaza, the killing of over 30,000 Palestinians, including 13,000 Palestinian babies and children, the injuring of around now 70,000 Palestinians, and the destruction of almost all of the civilian infrastructure in Gaza. International law prohibits this completely. We have to remind the world that there are, at least in theory, rules which Israel must abide by and which it is violating.
The IDF is doing anything they can in order to minimize the casualties when it targets the military targets. But again, we are in a war. In a war, civilians get hurt. You will never see the IDF target shoot down a civilian. You will never see a group of children walking on the beach of Gaza and Israel target them specifically, or an old lady crossing the street and Israel shoots the old lady. Israel does not target civilians.
عند الحجة وأخويا وعنده حوالي 50 نازح أو 70 نازح موجودين في البيت الثاني اللي يخش علينا لو طلعونا وأخويا ما طلعوش بدنا نروح يعني نطلع إن شاء الله.
Israel targets military targets. Israel targets terrorists. And when these terrorists surround themselves with civilians, with these little children, with this old lady, with these old people, these civilians might get hurt. But it's not on the fault of Israel. It's on the fault of the one who surrounded himself with these civilians, the one that used them as human shields.
شيل يا عمي تشحطوهوش.
The argument of the human shields of Palestinians in general being eager to sacrifice their own children as human shields has been used and dismissed over and over. The first one to dismiss this argument was Richard Goldstone, the head of the first commission of inquiry over the first war in Gaza, and it has been disproven over and over. Where is the evidence?
Israel's instruction to the Palestinians first to move south and then to move west and then to move north. But basically that instruction, which has displaced 1.8 million people, tells the Israelis that any civilians that remains in that area, or Israel assumes that any civilian that remains in that area is either a participant in hostilities and therefore can be killed, or a human shield, namely someone that is being used to shield a legitimate military target. And that allows Israel to relax the repertoires of lethal violence that it uses against these people. And in a court of law, that can be used to justify the wholesale killing of civilians.
Israel does more than even it's required. It drops flyers over Gaza to tell the people to vacate the area. It makes phone calls to residential civilians to vacate the area. Israel calls to vacate the area. Once Israel took these precautions, it's allowed to take down the building. If civilians prefer to stay, they take their own responsibility.
This is a complete distortion of international law. If you consider also the fact that Israel is an occupier, which I think is the relevant legal framing here, Israel has obligations under occupation law, not only to end the occupation, which has now been ongoing for 56 years, but also to protect the occupied people. And we also know that Israel has no right to claim self-defense in accordance with Article 51 of the UN Charter with respect to attacks emanating from a territory that it occupies. This notion was upheld International Court of Justice in its 2011 ruling on the legality of the wall. And so, regardless of which way you look at this, there is absolutely no legal defense to committing a genocide.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
We have the president of the state saying there's no innocent civilian or there's no uninvolved civilian in the Gaza Strip. So these kind of remarks do point at intent, and if it gets to a court of law, then these kinds of remarks become very important in terms of the genocidal aspect of this war.
A lot of people in Israel will not feel bad for the Palestinians, but yet the leadership in Israel feels for the Palestinian people, and they allow whatever the minimal humanitarian aid to be provided to the population in Gaza.
The law does create a vision of a certain kind of justice that we want to aspire for. We want to aspire towards a world where human rights for all are protected.
The immense scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire. For at least the next 6 weeks, which is what is currently on the table.
Does human rights law give us the tools to achieve human rights? I'm not sure, because of the interests of powerful states, because of the double standards that are applied in the international arena, and therefore, if it gets to court, often the human rights do not win the day. And so we need to think of other mechanisms to achieve these human rights.
The problem is not the law. The problem is with the enforcement of the law. And in the Middle East and in the Global South, I would say, the problem is that law is closer to political convenience than to justice. As a European, I'm very sorry to say 500 years of colonization has left a huge imprint in our DNA. In general, Western people are not able to assess objectively what is being done through the non-application of international law or through the discretionary application of international law. It's terrible to see the dismantlement of international order premised upon international law piece by piece.
אמש שוחחתי שוב עם הנשיא ביידן. אני מעריך את עמדתה האיתנה של ארצות הברית במועצת הביטחון, עמדה שתומכת במאמץ המלחמתי שלנו. אמרתי אתמול לנשיא ביידן שאנחנו נילחם עד לניצחון המוחלט. ייקח כמה זמן שזה ייקח.
It's unclear what absolute victory will look like when you've destroyed already 70% of Gaza, when the overwhelming majority, close to 2 million Palestinians, are displaced. It seems to me that absolute victory means the total decimation of Gaza to the point that it's completely uninhabitable, and the depopulation of Gaza, which Israel has told us time and again in this current moment, that is their goal, that their goal is the depopulation of Gaza and the settlement of Gaza by Israeli settlers, of course, in total violation of international law.
Israel does not breach international law. Israel keeps strictly, very, very strictly, all the rules of law according to the international law.
Why a country should be above scrutiny? I mean, no one should be. The international law is there to be applied universally and not just for cherry picking, because this transforms, as I often say, human rights protection into protectionism, and this is unacceptable.
For me, the idea that the law will lead to liberation or emancipation or Palestinian self-determination is a fiction. Human rights is not necessarily the tool. I think the tool needs to be more political in the sense of divestments, in the sense of sanctions, in the sense of boycotts, to use this kind of arsenal of nonviolent weapons to pressure Israel to bring about change.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Israel, about 12 or so years ago, realized, having been so close to apartheid South Africa, the very real threat that BDS posed to the existence of the Israeli state as a racist occupying state. And they created a ministerial department called the Department for Strategic Affairs, specifically to counter the BDS movement. And what was the strategy that they hit upon? It was to ensure that any criticism of Israel, any criticism of its occupation, any criticism of its behavior in the occupied territories was made equivalent to anti-Semitism. And they have been remarkably successful at doing that.
There is no other argument than accusing us of anti-Semitism so as to deflect the attention from what matters the most, from what our analysis insists upon. For decades now, I'm not surprised that Israel recurs to any strategies it can to uphold its goals to reach its objectives. But I'm surprised that the international community joins this action, because today you are not just attacked by Israel for being anti-Semitic. If you just ask for the application of international law to Israeli actions, it's many Western countries who do so, and they betray also what anti-Semitism has really been.
The surge of anti-Semitism in the United States of America and around the world is sickening. You know, we see it across our communities in schools and colleges and social media. They surface painful scars from millennia to hate to genocide of the Jewish people.
Every time I get falsely accused of anti-Semitism, I respond. I don't stay quiet. I don't get intimidated. I become louder and louder. And by doing so, I think I also inspire other people to do the same.
I'm Jewish. My mother was one of 20-odd survivors of the Holocaust. So to describe me as anti-Semitic, given my history of anti-racism and my work on genocide prevention, my invoking of the Holocaust of which my mother's family were victims, it's simply an absurdity. The so-called Western world is prepared to sacrifice the entire architecture of international law that has been put in place post-World War II, specifically to prevent there being another genocide like the Holocaust. We are prepared to rent all of that asunder so that Israel can continue to murder 247 Palestinians on an average day, 48 of whom will be women, and 117 of whom will be children. We're prepared to throw it all out. That's the point of crisis that our politics are at now. And it is up to all of us who recognize that to actually create a counter-narrative to the nonsense that is spewed by our politicians to maintain their own place in this appallingly corrupt and malfunctioning political system we have.
We continue every single day to wake up and insist on freedom and life in the face of genocide, and there's simply nothing more dignified that anybody can do in such a hopeless and desperate moment. I don't believe it's going to be sustainable to continue to prevent Palestinians from their right to freedom.
Since October 7th, 2023, Israeli military raids and settler violence has surged in the occupied West Bank. Hundreds of Palestinians have been killed and thousands injured. More than a dozen countries, including the US, have condemned the violence. The White House has even announced sanctions against several Israeli settlers. But tens of thousands of Americans live in illegal settlements, and many serve in the Israeli military. People in Power investigates the role US citizens play in Israel's occupation and settlement expansion.
מוחץ. חיילינו הגיבורים חייבים לשמוע את הקריאה שלנו בעזה.
Hundreds of Israelis are attending this pro-war rally in Jerusalem, supporting the bombardment of Gaza.
Since October the 7th, there has been a spike in violence carried out by Israeli settlers against Palestinians as a result. They said that they will impose visa restrictions on the violence. And some Palestinians say that this goes very far left because the relationship between the United States, the occupation and settlement runs deep.
ראש הממשלה והקבינט המלחמה חייבים לשמוע את הקריאה והדרישה שלנו לניצחון מוחלט. אויבינו הרבים חייבים לשמוע ולהבין שעם ישראל ינצח וישמיד את כל מי שינסה לפגוע בו. ניצחון! ניצחון!
In February 2024, after mounting pressure, US President Joe Biden issued an executive order sanctioning 4 Israeli settlers accused of violence and intimidation against Palestinians. Since then, more settlers and settlements have been added to the list. But the US remains Israel's closest political ally and continues to give it more military aid than any other country in the world.
Mr. President, you're meeting with our united war cabinet to lead Israel to victory.
Israel has the right, and I would add a responsibility, to respond to the slaughter of their people. And we will ensure Israel has what it needs to defend itself against these terrorists.
If you could describe the relationship between the United States and Israel in one sentence, what would you say?
Let's get Trump back in because
let's keep this broader.
Okay,
let's keep it broader.
I'm going to say that.
We need the support of both parties. They got to start thinking a little bit more like the enemies. I mean, the United States, in Great Britain, their forces are being shot at in the Middle East also. And what are they going to let that happen? We have to draw the line and say enough. They don't understand restraint. They don't understand negotiation. They understand force and power. So you smack them, punch them in the face, and knock them down.
It's a different mentality in the Middle East. We have children who are fighting for the IDF, and that puts us in a little different position as well.
Since the Hamas attack on October 7th, when at least 1,139 were killed and 240 people taken hostage, Israel has carried out one of the most intensive bombing campaigns against a populated area in history, so far killing at least 33,482 people and displacing 85% of the population.
There's been a lot of coverage about accusations of war crimes that have been committed by members of the Israeli forces. Do you think that is an issue there for American dual nationals to be in an army that has this accusation put against them?
The Israelis, we're accused of war crimes whether we commit them or not. We have suffered so many more losses of our guys and of our men and women in battle because we don't go in and carpet bomb the way they think we do. Why should that building, it's a death trap, why should we send our guys in there? Just knock it down, knock it down.
לא עוצרים עד שמנצחים! לא עוצרים עד שמנצחים!
Human rights groups accuse the Israeli military of collective punishment, arbitrary executions, torture, and starvation. Israel continues to blame Hamas for its actions, while the US vetoed multiple calls by the UN for a ceasefire. And despite Biden's executive order, Palestinians living under occupation say they face increasing restrictions on movement, while settlers accused of violence enjoy near impunity. Settlers are Israeli citizens who live in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, Palestinian territory which has been occupied by Israel since 1967. There are now around 700,000 settlers. The 3 million Palestinians there are ruled under military law. Since October 7th, more than 430 Palestinians have